Chapter 850. This aura was extremely mysterious and could only be gathered when the people were united. It was rumored that in ancient times, this power was called faith. It was a mysterious power that could only be produced when the people were united. This power was very similar to the Imperial Palace's dragon aura, but it was more powerful. The Imperial Palace's dragon aura could not directly obtain this power of faith, so it could only be gathered through the Empire's dragon veins and finally formed into Imperial Palace's dragon aura. The power of faith was too difficult to form. It was rumored that only the ancient powerhouses could unite the people and form the power of faith to add to themselves and obtain great benefits. In the divine pivot hall of the spirit realm, the lightning and starlight disappeared and the surroundings returned to normal. Why isn't that kid reacting? What's wrong? On the mountain peak, Quang Zun was puzzled as he looked at the figure in the sky. Something's not right. Something's not right. Yu Xianzi frowned. She felt an inexplicable aura coming from afar and was about to approach. Something's not right. Quang Zun's expression changed and his aura surged. He was on guard. Boom! Suddenly, the sky trembled, the 9 heavens shook, and the world changed color. In an instant, a golden brilliance seemed to have come from the depths of the sky. It was like a divine radiance that directly enveloped Du Xiaofu's body. Boom! Almost at the same time, the sky shook and a second golden light surged out. It merged with the first and also enveloped Du Xiaofu's body. Golden light enveloped Du Xiaofu. At this moment, a pressure that seemed to come from the heavens and earth spread out around him. This pressure was special and endless. Under the pressure, the people in the divine pivot hall couldn't help but tremble in fear. The weaker disciples of the divine pivot hall couldn't help but prostrate on the ground. In the mountains, thousands of beasts roared and looked up with reverence. In Enlightenment City, hundreds of millions of people worshipped the Rock Emperor and knelt down. The mysterious aura in the city soared into the sky. Faith, that's the power of faith. Xiaofu is absorbing the power of faith. On the mountain peak, Fairy Yu was truly shocked. She looked at the young man who was shrouded in golden light at this moment. It was as if a heavenly deity had descended. That was the legendary power of faith. Those who could obtain the power of faith were all almighty beings in ancient times. And now, the power of faith had actually appeared on that young man. Faith power, the legendary faith power. Where did Xiaofu get the faith power from? Even Sovereign Quang was stunned, and his eyes were filled with shock. Legend has it that when the power of faith is added to one's body, one would be able to obtain the protection of the heavens, suppress all evil, and increase one's luck. The power of faith is something that only the Almighty of the heavens and earth can obtain. Fairy Yu said softly, and her eyes were unable to calm down for a long time. Extraordinary, this kid is extraordinary. Our 7-star hall is in luck this time. Ha 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 ha, Mad Sovereign laughed heartily. How could he not know what faith power represented? This was the kid's luck, and also the 7-star hall's luck. That kid was able to stand shoulder to shoulder with the almighty beings in ancient times. There was no need to worry that the 7-star hall wouldn't prosper in the world. That guy has been stubborn all his life. His eyes are on the top of his head, and he has never accepted a direct disciple. This time, he has indeed accepted a good disciple. Fairy Yu said softly, and a smile appeared on her face. This disciple belongs to our 4th brother, and also to our 7-star hall. Ha ha ha. Suddenly, Mad Sovereign turned around and looked at Fairy Yu, and said mysteriously, "Second brother, do you still remember the agreement between the 7 of us?" Fairy Yu raised her hand and smiled faintly. At that time, the 7 of us didn't want to submit to each other. After establishing the 7-star hall, we agreed that in the future, if there was someone who could stand out among the younger generation of the 7-star hall and be qualified to be recognized by us, then the 7-star hall would be under the management of the 7-star hall. This way, the 9 major powers of the central continent would be afraid of us. Mad Sovereign looked at the young man who was shrouded in golden brilliance and said to Fairy Yu, "Do you think that Kid Xiaofu is qualified?" Fairy Yu raised her head and looked at the young man in the sky. After a while, she said, "My Tianxian Hall can be handed over to him. Tianxian Hall will also be his in the future." Mad Sovereign said. His strong and rough body fluctuated with an aura that caused the surrounding space to distort. Du Xiaofu broke through. At this moment, he was shrouded in golden brilliance and the space trembled. He felt a gorgeous golden passage appear in front of him. The aura that spread in the golden passage made Du Xiaofu feel that he could obtain great benefits. It could nourish his soul and body. Therefore, he stepped in without hesitation. The golden passage seemed to be extremely long. Du Xiaofu felt that he had passed through countless spaces before finally reaching the end. Golden brilliance shone in front of him, and then the space fluctuated. He felt a dazzling light coming and a familiar big city appeared in his sight. The big city was the Stone City. Du Xiaofu couldn't be more familiar with it. Du Xiaofu saw that the Stone City was holding a memorial ceremony. Countless people were kneeling on the ground, and some were shouting his name. The Drug Emperor, Big Sister, Second Brother, First Uncle, Second Uncle, Mysterious Dragon King, Silver-Winged Demonic Condor, Golden Condor King, Extinction Sword King, and many others. There were also many elders and experts of the ancient Heaven sect. Many familiar figures appeared in Du Xiaofu's sight. At this moment, Du Xiaofu felt that he could blend in with the countless people. He could feel everyone's thoughts. He was able to see through everyone's heart and their thoughts clearly. They were thinking of him. They were sad for him. Some hoped that he could become an expert. Some hoped that he could strengthen the desolate country. There were young people in the Stone City who hoped to become strong and protect the Stone City in the future. Suddenly, the signs in front of him changed. In Du Xiaofu's sight, another familiar place appeared. It was a vast city. Du Xiaofu didn't forget that it was the Enlightenment City. In Enlightenment City, the grand ceremony was also going on at the moment. Du Xiaofu felt that he could also pry into the thoughts of billions of people clearly. They were grateful for his protection. They were grateful for everything that he had done for the Enlightenment City back then. There were old people who were grateful to him. There were women and children who couldn't bear to part with him. There were young people who hoped to become experts and didn't want the Enlightenment City to suffer again. As long as I'm here, I'll protect everyone. Du Xiaofu thought to himself. He was touched. Everything that he had done had a meaning. This was the meaning of protection. There would be people who would remember everything that he had done. As long as I'm here, I'll protect everyone. In the Enlightenment City, the Stone City. Above the sky, golden light suddenly spread out. There was a familiar voice. Vaguely, there was an illusory figure in the sky. However, it disappeared in a short time. Du Xiaofu didn't know that the words in his heart would cause changes in the Stone City and the Enlightenment City. This was the power of faith pulling each other. It's the brave God King. I've seen it before. I won't forget it. That's the voice of the brave God King. There's no mistake. Miracle. This is a miracle. The brave God King has shown himself. In the Enlightenment City, hundreds of millions of eyes were trembling. Everyone was trembling. The brave God King had shown himself. He had shown himself in their prayers. That's Third Brother's voice. It's Third Brother's figure. There's no mistake. In the Stone City, Du Xiaoman and Du Yunlong raised their heads. They looked at each other and trembled. The Rock Emperor has shown himself. It's the Rock Emperor. The Stone City was in an uproar. People were running around to spread the news. The experts of the ancient Heaven sect were also amazed. They had witnessed the scene with their own eyes. It was extremely mysterious. Roar! Suddenly, Du Xiaofu heard a dragon's roar. An aura rippled towards him. It seemed to be connected to his aura. Then, the space rippled. In the next moment, Du Xiaofu saw the Stone Dragon Empire's Dragon City. Then, he saw the Imperial Palace. The Imperial Palace was filled with joy. It was decorated with lanterns and streamers. At this moment, a man and a woman were standing in the main hall of the Imperial Palace. They were both peerless and outstanding. They were like a golden couple. The Great Wuxia's holy son, Dongli Qi Huang, and our Stone Dragon Empire's first princess, Qing Shengnan, are engaged. They are a match made in heaven. The Great Wuxia will definitely protect our Stone Dragon Empire in the future. The first princess and the Great Wuxia's holy son are engaged. The entire empire is celebrating. They are a match made in heaven. In the Imperial Dragon City, a voice entered Du Xiaofu's mind. Engaged. She's engaged. Du Xiaofu's heart skipped a beat and a ripple appeared in his heart. The scene before him then turned into a mass of light and shattered before disappearing. Spirit Realm, Alpha Hall. In the sky above, the golden light disappeared. The morning sun finally poured down from the sky and illuminated the entire mountain range. It was warm and refreshing. The figure in the sky floated in the air for a moment. Finally, his body trembled slightly. Under the mask, the tightly shut eyes suddenly opened. The light in his eyes was like lightning shooting out. There were purple flames erupting and starlight shining. Under the gazes of the numerous Sky Pivot Hall disciples in the distance, a terrifyingly overbearing aura soared into the sky from within the young body. It caused the clouds in the sky to split apart as if they were being pushed apart by a large invisible hand, while the aura rushed towards the depths of the clouds. The thin purple soft armored body stood tall in the air. The majestic aura that spread out from his body was like a peerless ferocious beast that had awakened. It rushed into the endless sky. What a terrifying martial emperor! Feeling the terror of that aura, numerous murmurs filled with respect and envy sounded out in the entire Sky Pivot Hall. Today's update is complete. I have finally broken through to the martial emperor realm. The grand event in the Central Plains is about to begin. Chapter 851. Are you engaged? Congratulations, I wish you happiness. In the air, Du Xiaofu took a deep breath and suppressed the complicated feelings in his heart. He didn't know why, but he felt a faint heartache. He then bitterly smiled and murmured, "The saint of the Great Wuxia is indeed worthy of you, but what can I give you? I only have revenge for my family and the revenge for the school. I can't fall down because I don't have anyone behind me, so I can't be your support. The school's revenge is as deep as the ocean, and it's hard to have feelings for each other. My heart has already been taken care of by someone else, and we will be strangers from now on." Suppressing the complicated emotions in his heart, Du Xiaofu loosened his clenched fists. He immersed his consciousness into his body and sensed everything that was going on. As he probed with his mind, Du Xiaofu felt that there was a little golden ape entrenched within his divine watchtower. It was exactly the same as Du Xiaoyao's original body. It was his meridian soul that had already gained sentience. This was also the difference between the martial king realm and the martial emperor realm. Within the Naiwan palace in his mind, the ball that was formed by mental energy and spiritual strength had already turned into a small illusory figure. It was like a miniature version of himself and looked exactly like him. Du Xiaofu knew that it was his primordial spirit. After becoming a 7-star spiritual talisman master, a spiritual talisman master would be able to form his own primordial spirit. If his physical body was unfortunately destroyed, as long as his primordial spirit existed, he would have a chance to recover, just like his elder brother, Zhen Qingchun, and his master, the Honorable Equipment Master. A martial cultivator's primordial spirit could only be formed at the martial honorable realm. Du Xiaofu withdrew his primordial spirit and carefully sensed the changes in his body. He realized that his body had once again undergone a complete transformation. As he probed, Du Xiaofu could clearly feel that there was a crystal-clear feeling in his body. Even his internal organs, bones, muscles, and acupoints were filled with light. That was the benefit of being cleansed by the starlight energy. In his body, the expanded spirit watchtower and the surging celestial energy, as well as the vigorous spiritual energy in his primordial spirit, were completely different from before he broke through. Boom! This change caused Du Xiaofu to feel a burst of joy in his heart. He clenched his fist tightly and could not help but punch towards the air. This was a simple punch with a faint electric glow wrapped around it. Immediately, the space trembled, and a series of energy sonic booms resounded. The surrounding space was directly distorted and shattered. A spatial vortex vaguely appeared, as if it was about to explode the space. Faint black spatial cracks spread out from the vortex. It was such a simple punch, yet it was so powerful that Du Xiaofu felt that if he were to meet someone like Chu Jianghuang, he would be able to easily kill him with a single punch. Xiaofu brat, your strength has increased tremendously. Quang Zun's voice rang out and two figures silently appeared beside Du Xiaofu. They were none other than Quang Zun and Yu Xianzi. Greetings, eldest martial uncle and second martial uncle. Du Xiaofu smiled and bowed. He had to thank the two elders in front of him for this breakthrough. No need for formalities. It's good that you've broken through. There's still half a month before the Heaven's Pride tournament. Prepare well. If you can't enter the top 10, I'll take care of you when I return. Also, don't forget about the Yin Spirit Crystal. Quang Zun looked at Du Xiaofu with anticipation. The 7-star Hall finally had a chance to enter the top 10 in the Heaven's Pride tournament. Du Xiaofu was slightly stunned. Heaven's Pride tournament? Yu Xianzi looked at Du Xiaofu's puzzled expression and said to Du Xiaofu, it's the Heaven's Pride tournament that I told you about before. It's held once every 30 years. When the time comes, all the young people in the Middle Continent will participate. The 3 sects, 3 factions, 1 valley, 2 schools, and even our 7-star hall will participate. It's incomparably dangerous, but there are also great opportunities inside. At the same time, it's the responsibility of the entire Middle Continent. Then, Du Xiaofu learned about the history and information of the Heaven's Pride tournament from Yu Xianzi and Quang Zun. Rumor had it that a long, long time ago, the heavens and earth were in turmoil, and living beings were slaughtering each other. It was the end of the world. One day, a supreme expert descended and stopped the slaughter with his own strength. He sealed the entire battlefield and left behind a thunder god cauldron to suppress the evil spirits on the battlefield. Back then, when the heavens and earth were in turmoil, there were more than billions of evil spirits on the battlefield. It was an ancient land that was full of mysteries. As time passed, countless living beings were born. Within the sealed ancient land, the living beings that were born were all evil spirits. In order to prevent the evil spirits from gathering and eventually becoming uncontrollable, the ancient land seal would open once every 30 years to allow people to enter and cleanse the evil spirits. At the same time, they would obtain endless opportunities. However, the seal also had restrictions. It could only allow cultivators below the martial royal realm to enter. In the end, they could obtain great benefits. However, all of this could only be obtained by the younger generation. As for the older generation, even if their cultivation had not exceeded the martial royal realm, once they entered the ancient land, they would immediately be suppressed and killed. Therefore, every 30 years, the ancient land seal would open and only the younger generation could enter. This was also the responsibility of the entire Middle Continent. Rumor had it that once the evil spirits in the sealed land reached a peak, the seal would break. At that time, the entire Middle Continent would be plunged into misery and suffering and become a demon's domain. Every 30 years, the younger generation of the entire Middle Continent would enter to cleanse the evil spirits as their responsibility. At the same time, they also desired to obtain endless opportunities. Rumor had it that there was a possibility of obtaining an ancient inheritance in the ancient land. At that time, one would be able to rise out of the blue and become a top expert in the world. Xiaofu, in the Heavenly Pride competition, you will lead the disciples of the Seven-Star Hall to participate in the ancient sealed land. It is extremely dangerous inside. Although the evil spirits are cleansed every 30 years, there is no lack of powerful evil spirits and evil spirits. In a courtyard on a mountain peak in Dubhe Hall, no disciple could get close to it. This was the forbidden area of Dubhe Hall. Yu Xianzi looked at Du Xiaofu seriously and continued to warn him, if you're unlucky, it's not impossible to encounter an evil creature that surpasses the Emperor realm. Every time, even the 3 sects, 3 schools, and other forces like the One Valley, 2 religions, 3 sects, 3 schools, and other forces, there are many more people who have died in the sealed land. Therefore, you must not be careless and be careful. However, if there is a chance, you must fight for the final benefits with all your might. It will be a great opportunity. If you miss this opportunity, you will never have such an opportunity in the future. Second Martial Uncle, what kind of great opportunity will there be at the end? Du Xiaofu asked curiously and made a mental note of it. Even Second Martial Aunt, Fairy Yu, felt that it was an enormous opportunity. One could well imagine how enormous that opportunity was. It was something that could only be encountered by chance and not sought after. That is divine thunder body tempering. It can directly improve martial veins and spirit roots. Quang Zun said to Du Xiaofu first. His rough figure and aura rippled as he looked at Du Xiaofu and said, Xiaofu, do you know why the One Valley, 2 sects and 3 factions in Spirit Realm are afraid of our 7-star hall? In fact, our 7-star hall does not have the rich foundation of the One Valley, 2 sects and 3 factions. Looking at eldest martial uncle Quang Zun, Du Xiaofu shook his head. The One Valley, 2 sects and 3 factions are restraining each other. No one wants to let others obtain Spirit Realm. This is the main reason. Quang Zun's eyes lit up slightly as he continued to say to Du Xiaofu, more importantly, they know that we and your master are not to be trifled with. If any of the forces of the One Valley, 2 sects and 3 factions provoke us, they will suffer great losses. Du Xiaofu nodded. He did not doubt eldest martial uncle Quang Zun's words at all. With eldest martial uncle and his master's strength, if the 7 of them work together, the 9 forces of the One Valley, 2 sects and 3 factions would suffer great losses and pay a terrible price. The 9 forces also restrained each other. That was why Spirit Realm was in such a state today. The 9 forces could not touch Spirit Realm and the rise of the 7-star hall. They are afraid of us because there are 6 human sovereigns among the 7 of us. Quang Zun looked at Du Xiaofu with undisguised pride. He said, boy, do you know how many martial veins and spirit roots are divided into? As far as this disciple knows, martial veins are divided into human outstanding, human monarch, and human sovereign. Du Xiaofu was shocked. There were 6 human sovereigns among the 7 hall masters of the 7-star hall. Sima Muhan of the ancient heaven sect was also a human sovereign. Such people were too rare, even rarer than phoenix feathers and Qilin horns. However, every human sovereign was terrifying. It was not a big problem for them to kill people of the same cultivation level. They were not people of the same cultivation level as them. By the way, eldest martial uncle, why are there only 6 human sovereigns among the 7 of you? Is there anyone else who is not a human sovereign? Du Xiaofu was curious. He did not know which hall master was not a human sovereign. Sovereign Quang chuckled proudly. Yu Xianzi looked at Du Xiaofu and said softly, there is also your master Xiahou Fenglei. He is not a human sovereign. Chapter 852. So my master is slightly weaker. Du Xiaofu murmured. He was a little surprised. He didn't expect his master to be slightly weaker among the 7 hall masters. Quan Zun smiled and said to Du Xiaofu, "Your master isn't a human sovereign because he is a human sovereign that surpasses the human sovereign. Among the 7 of us, the strongest wasn't me or 6th brother, Purple Sky Sovereign. It was your master, Xiahou Feng Lei." When Du Xiaofu heard this, his heart trembled fiercely, and his eyes flashed with brilliance. So his master, Xiahou Feng Lei, was actually the strongest among the 7 hall masters of the 7-star hall. Martial veins aren't just divided into outstanding human, human king and human sovereign. Above them, there's also human sovereign. That's an existence that surpasses the human sovereign. Even human sovereigns can't compare to them. It's said that only some legendary ancient clans have human sovereigns. Yu Xianzi's eyes flickered. She sighed and said, "Above human sovereigns, there's the strongest sovereign. That's a legendary existence. That's the sovereign of humans." It's said that the sovereign of humans only appeared in ancient times. Those sovereigns among the sovereigns eventually became almighty in this world. They're the strongest existences in this world. No one can compete with them. Sovereign. Those 2 simple words made Du Xiaofu's body tremble violently. It was as if his blood was boiling. Du Xiaofu could clearly feel that the martial veins in his body trembled slightly when those 2 simple words entered his ears. Sister seems to be a natural-born sovereign. A slight smile appeared on Du Xiaofu's lips. His sister was a woman who was no different from him. She was a natural-born supreme being, the strongest existence in the world. Du Xiaofu was proud of her because she was his biological sister. His biological sister from the same mother. I think Xiao Jing should have recovered by now. A comforting smile appeared on Du Xiaofu's face. Now that she had her own heart, his sister would definitely be able to recover in that clan. In the ancient land seal, there will be a chance for divine thunder body refinement. However, there are only 10 places. You must enter the top 10. This opportunity cannot be missed. Quan Zun said to Du Xiaofu. I will do my best. Du Xiaofu said. Nodded. Now that he had broken through Martial Emperor Realm and 7-star Talisman Master, he was confident. The Divine Thunder Body Refinement. Although Du Xiaofu didn't know what level his martial and martial spiritual root were, he couldn't his martial and spiritual qi. Although Du Xiaofu his martial and spiritual martial, S is mu martial nilu. Muzas is ren, desta. S betes b's heaven, S genius heaven, S heavensas. Du Xiaofu planned to return to Migre's palace first before going to the ancient land seal to meet up with the others from the 7-star hall. Du Xiaofu learned some helpless news from Quan Zun and Fairy Yu. Inside the ancient land seal, one could not use any external force, including puppets. One could only rely on one's own cultivation and strength. Any external force would be restricted inside. This was naturally not good news for Du Xiaofu. If he could use the dragon puppet on him, it would be a strong guarantee. Unfortunately, he could not do so. Quan Zun and Fairy Yun were worried about returning to Migre's palace. They were afraid that they would meet the mysterious expert who pretended to be the Hall Master of Alioth Hall. GMO Du Xiaofu had to spend some effort to convince Quan Zun and Fairy Yu. His luck was not that bad. Moreover, the appearance of the 6 Hall Masters of the 7-star Hall had already intimidated the mysterious expert. He would not show himself for the time being. Little Xing, the aura on your body seems different. In mid-air, Du Xiaofu leaped into the air and left. Little Xing came out of his arms. The aura on his body was very different from before, which surprised Du Xiaofu. Ao, Little Xing raised his head and mumbled in a low voice. His golden eyes looked at Du Xiaofu as they rolled around. You want to eat spirit herbs again? You wastrel. Du Xiaoyao is so much better than you. Du Xiaofu stared at little Xing Xing, but his hand subconsciously took out a few spirit herbs and put them in front of little Xing Xing's mouth. He muttered, "If I didn't promise her to take care of you, I wouldn't have bothered with you. If you dare to starve me to death, my father will definitely not let you go." A crisp and tender voice rang out from little Xing Xing's mouth. After which, he opened his mouth and swallowed the few stalks of spiritual herbs. After chewing on the spiritual herbs in his mouth, he rolled his eyes at Du Xiaofu and completely ignored Du Xiaofu. "You can talk." Du Xiaofu's body suddenly trembled and he almost fell from the sky. This little ingrate could actually talk, and it seemed to be a girl. What's so strange about that? I was only able to talk after breaking through when you were breaking through. Little Xing Xing chewed the spirit herbs in his mouth and spoke in a childish voice. As he spoke, rays of light shot out from his mouth. Du Xiaofu landed on a mountain peak below and looked at little Xing Xing. He was dumbfounded and asked, "You just said your father. Who is your father?" "I don't know who he is, but when I was breaking through, I heard the words my father left in my mind. He said that he would definitely come back to find me." Little Xing Xing looked at Du Xiaofu and his golden eyes rippled. His childish voice said seriously, "Anyway, you are also my father. I was born because of you. In the future, you must take good care of me and give me more spirit herbs to eat. I feel that if I eat more spirit herbs, I will be able to break through faster." "Since when am I your father?" Du Xiaofu was stunned and stared at little Xing Xing in front of him. This little guy was obviously a demonic beast. How could he be his father? However, this little guy's father was most likely the real dragon. This made Du Xiaofu a little afraid of offending this little guy. The real dragon in the legends was extremely powerful. However, could this little guy's father really be a real dragon? "Anyway, you are my father." Little Xing Xing rolled his golden eyes at Du Xiaofu. After eating a few spirit herbs, he still wanted more. However, he did not ask Du Xiaofu for more. After his childish voice faded, he once again burrowed into Du Xiaofu's arms. "What's going on? Am I a father just like that?" Du Xiaofu was stunned on the mountain peak. After a long while, he smiled bitterly. Then, his body flashed a few times and disappeared in the direction of the Migres palace. 30 years have passed again. The Heaven's Pride competition and the Ancient Land seal is about to open. Who knows how many young people will obtain great opportunities because of this. That ancient land is a dangerous place. This time, who knows how many young people will not be able to come out after entering. This is a grand event. Countless young people in the entire central region will participate. Outstanding talents and human kings compete. The last 10 people will obtain the greatest benefits. If you want to be the last 10 people, it will be a fierce battle. It will be a battle between the strongest young people in the central region. Only the strongest 10 people will have the qualifications to participate. When the time comes, their names will resound throughout the central region. Sooner or later, they will become giants. I wonder which 10 people will be able to enter the top 10 this time. Naturally, they will be the most powerful people in the one valley, 2 sects, 3 sects and 3 factions. It will be too difficult for the disciples of the other forces to compete with them. That's not necessarily true. In the past, there have been records of dark horses. Those dark horses usually have the strength to compete with the top young disciples of the 9 great forces. It's too difficult for such dark horses to appear. Who do you think will become the Heaven's Pride this time? It's really hard to be sure. I heard that the Great Luan sect has the saint, Dongli Chihuang. His cultivation has reached a terrifying level. There is also the immeasurable sect's Jiuling. Rumor has it that her cultivation has already broken through to the martial emperor realm. There is also the profound talisman sect's Zhu Shui. She is also a terrifying disciple of the profound talisman sect. There is also the Xiandu Gate's Jiang Wuolin. She is the fairy of the Xiandu Gate. There is also the Spirit Heaven Valleys and Ling Jun. It is said that he is the most talented person in the Spirit Heaven Valley in the past 1,000 years. There is also the Huijian Sect's Wu Ming. His sword Dao cultivation is so high that even the elders in the sect feel ashamed of their inferiority. Don't forget that there is also the Sky Snake Sect's Shilongyang, the profound underworld sects Ming Rongyin, and the ancient heaven sects Roa Shui Han and Shenling. It is said that they are all people with terrifying talents. Chapter 853. The entire spirit realm, and even the entire central state, was talking about the grand event that happened once every 30 years. The Prodigy Tournament was the focus of the entire central state. Countless forces were waiting anxiously. For ordinary forces, they didn't hope that their disciples would be able to obtain the last great opportunity in the Prodigy Tournament. However, they all hoped that the disciples of their own sects and clans would be able to obtain the legendary inheritance of the ancient experts in the sealed land of the ancient lands. It was rumored that countless treasures were left behind in the sealed ancient land. Many heavenly treasures were born there. Those who were fated would be able to obtain them. The Prodigy Tournament was a great cleansing of the sealed ancient land. More importantly, it was a competition between the younger generation of the entire central state. The final 10 strongest youths would be able to stand out from their peers in the central state. Their names would resound throughout the central state, and they would become famous throughout the entire central state. As for the top youths of the various forces, they would naturally become the focus of everyone's discussion. They were the most likely to become one of the final 10. However, this matter couldn't be confirmed. One had to know that there were great dangers in the sealed ancient land, and there were still many people fighting for supremacy. It was hard to say who would be able to walk to the end and stand out from the rest. The night was like a curtain. The moonlight shone in the sky, covering the 800 miles of Central State's long river. Above the vast body of water, the surrounding space suddenly trembled. Unknowingly, dark clouds gathered in the sky and blocked the moonlight. The moonlight was swallowed up by the dark clouds. Whoosh, after a while, above the body of water, a huge whirlpool spun endlessly. It was so huge that one couldn't see the end of it. It was as if there was a huge world inside the body of water. Waves of terrifying energy spread out from it. Roar, within the dark body of water, the deep roars of beasts could be heard continuously. Whoosh, the energy waves from the whirlpool grew stronger and stronger. It was as if something was about to spit out. Then, the whirlpool grew bigger and bigger. Huge waves surged like thunder. The huge waves were like a tsunami. White waves swept in all directions. Whoosh, then, the entire whirlpool began to rise like a waterfall. It was as if something terrifying was revealed from the whirlpool. Waves of terrifying ancient aura rippled out from the whirlpool. Then, within the vast body of water, a huge silhouette began to appear. It stretched into the distance and covered a huge area. Under the dim moonlight, runes shot into the sky. Several huge mountains appeared within the body of water. It was as if they were uprooted from the bottom of the water. They appeared in the world of the world. The mountain peak towered high, multicolored light spreading out, the aura ancient, as if it came from a distant ancient space. Suddenly, 3 figures flew out from the whirlpool and landed on the waters of the middle plains. Sister Xiao Luo, we will come back to see you. 3 figures floated in midair, and a young girl stood in the middle. She released a serene melody that was extremely beautiful. The young girl's beautiful hair was loosely tied up behind her head. She had a bewitching temperament, but there was also a kind of pure and holy beauty. Especially those pitch-black and ethereal eyes under the night sky, it was enough to engrave her in one's heart with a single glance. Okay. Remember to come back and talk to me when you are free. A sound of nature came from the ancient mountain. As the voice faded, the space in the mountain range suddenly trembled. Then, the entire space froze. Rumble, the surrounding space was like a fried dough twist. Space ripples began to twist together. The water that had just calmed down shook again. The waves surged as if they were going to devour everything. Then, everything disappeared again. It was as if the ancient mountains had never appeared. Roar, deep in the body of water, the roars of beasts could be heard. Among the three figures, the small figure on the left was a golden macaque the size of a baby. The golden macaque's entire body was glittering and translucent gold. The hair on its head was brightly colored, and its long and dense eyelashes were slightly curled up, covering a pair of bright and deep light golden eyes. The faint golden light in his eyes was unfathomable and exuded a noble demeanor. I'm finally back. It's been more than 2 years. The golden macaque stretched. There was a faint golden mark between its eyebrows. It was like a flickering flame. It looked mysterious. As it spoke, the mark slowly disappeared. I wonder where third young master is now. A young man on the right spoke. He was dressed in a black robe and had an imposing figure. His facial features were distinct and deep like a sculpture, and he emitted a cold and handsome aura. His dark and deep eyes were pure pitch black, and his entire person emitted the aura of a king that could shake the world. Let's go back to the dark forest first. We will be able to find my brother. The girl in the middle revealed a smile that was as beautiful as the epiphyllum of the world, a smile so beautiful that it could melt one's heart. I wonder what level that guy is at now. Hee hee. If he is not as strong as Little Tiger, it will be embarrassing. The golden macaque said with a gloating face. It hoped to see that guy's face when he was defeated. With third young master's talent, even if I have obtained great benefits in the past 2 years, I will not be able to compare to him. The young man in the black robe had a look of awe on his angular face. He knew very well that even if he had obtained amazing benefits in the past 2 years, he could not compare to third young master. Roar! After a while, the black runes around the young man in the black robe surged and turned into a black tiger. It spread its wings and leaped into the sky. Its body was black and black runes shot up into the sky. The girl and the golden macaque jumped onto the tiger's back. As the black tiger flapped its wings, a terrifying airwave swept out. One could clearly see a faint golden ripple spreading out like a tsunami. Then, the black tiger's body disappeared in the sky. The young master is back. Migre's palace. As soon as Du Xiaofu arrived at the mountain gate, a disciple at the gate ran excitedly to inform him. Greetings, young master. In Migre's palace, all the disciples, protectors and deacons bowed respectfully. 1.5 months ago, at the Seven Palaces meeting, the young master defeated Lin Weiqi and Dong Lijiao, killed official Qin of the Martial Marquis realm and became the champion of the Seven Palaces meeting. At the Seven Palaces meeting, 5 of the legendary hall masters of the Seven Palaces had appeared and truly proved the identity of the young master. At this moment, in the eyes of all the disciples of Migre's palace, they were full of respect for the young man in purple soft armor. He was the direct disciple of the hall master, the number 1 person of the younger generation of Spirit Realm, and came from their Migre's palace. After a while, Elder Zhu Xiu and the other elders of Migre's palace were seated in the great hall of Migre's palace. Young master, did you get any benefits from the 7-star light pool of Dubhe Palace? Elder Zhu Xiu asked with anticipation. When Du Xiaofu had told them to leave, he had told them that he was going to Dubhe Palace with the hall master of Dubhe Palace, Quang Zun, and the hall master of Merak Palace, Yu Xianzi. Therefore, it was not difficult for Elder Zhu Xiu to know that according to the rules of the Seven Palaces meeting, the young master should have entered the 7-star light pool to cleanse his body, purify his spirit platform and obtain endless benefits. Of course I got some benefits. Du Xiaofu smiled slightly. He did not tell Elder Zhu Xiu and the others about his breakthrough. Elder Zhu Xiu and the other elders of Migre's palace did not ask. Then Zhu Xiu looked at Du Xiaofu and asked, Young master, what happened at the Seven Palaces meeting? How could the Hall Master of Alioth Palace be fake? Regarding the change at the Seven Palaces meeting, not just Zhu Xiu and the others, everyone in the Seven-Star Hall was curious and speculating. Even many factions in Spirit Realm and Central Continent were nervously watching and inquiring. This matter had shaken the entire Central Continent. Regarding the Hall Master of Alioth Palace, the other Hall Masters have already taken control of this matter. Everything is fine, Du Xiaofu said to everyone. As for the details, it was not convenient to tell Elder Zhu Xiu and the others at this time. Young Hall Master, is the Hall Master well? After hesitating, Zhu Xiu asked again. The other elders and experts looked at each other. That day at the Seven Palaces meeting, all the Hall Masters of the Seven-Star Hall had appeared, but only the Hall Master of Migre's Palace had not been seen. Zhu Xiu and the other elders had many questions in their hearts. Elders, don't worry. I believe that Master will be able to return to Migre's Palace soon. Du Xiaofu looked at everyone. During this prodigy tournament, he had to find the Yin Spirit Crystal when he entered the sealed ancient land. As long as he obtained the Yin Spirit Crystal, his master would be able to recover as soon as possible. That's good, that's good. Hearing this, Zhu Xiu and the other elders and experts smiled with anticipation, waiting for the Hall Master to return to Migre's Palace. As Du Xiaofu was now the young Hall Master of Migre's Palace, he naturally could not escape knowing some of the matters of Migre's Palace. Elder Zhu Xiu and the other elders and experts then told Du Xiaofu about the situation of Migre's Palace. From this, Du Xiaofu learned that Migre's Palace was also good at making money. Their power was so great that it surpassed Du Xiaofu's original imagination. With the artifact forging skills of Migre's Palace, the artifacts they forged were in short supply. There were also many puppets and other items that could not be bought in the outside world. In addition, in the past 1,000 years, Migre's Palace had controlled more than 80% of the artifact forging material trade in Spirit Realm. Their business spread throughout Spirit Realm, and even in other places of Central Continent, they had many collaborations. Today's update is complete. Chapter 854. The Migre's Palace controlled most of the weapons in the spirit domain. Almost all of the high-grade talisman weapons and Dao weapons came from the Migre's Palace. This made countless experts have good relationships with some of the elders in the Migre's Palace. This kind of invisible force was not to be underestimated. Young Master, recently, someone from the Heavenly Treasure Pavilion wants to see you, Elder Zhu Xiu said. He found out that the young master was participating in the Myriad Weapon Conference because of the Heavenly Treasure Pavilion's recommendation. Therefore, he remembered the Heavenly Treasure Pavilion. Heavenly Treasure Pavilion. Du Xiaofu also remembered that some of the conditions he promised the Heavenly Treasure Pavilion hadn't been fulfilled yet. The pavilion master of the Heavenly Treasure Pavilion, Shangwanhe, also took good care of him. I owe the Heavenly Treasure Pavilion some favors. If possible, the Migre's Palace will take care of the Heavenly Treasure Pavilion in the future. Also, I want a few people from the Heavenly Treasure Pavilion to enter the Migre's Palace to study the forging experience left by my master. I have already seen the forging experience. Although it's a treasure for a talisman master, it's not a big deal to spread it out. Consider it as me returning the favor to the Heavenly Treasure Pavilion. Elders, do you think it's okay? Du Xiaofu asked everyone. He wasn't too familiar with the Migre's Palace's situation. Moreover, the people sitting here were the elders and seniors of the Migre's Palace. They had sacrificed a lot for the Migre's Palace, so naturally, it was up to them to decide. This is a small matter. I'll arrange it. Elder Zhu Xiu nodded. There were outsiders who came to study the forging experience and methods left behind by the palace master. For example, Guang Hunwen was one of them. Then I'll have to trouble Elder Zhu Xiu. Du Xiaofu nodded. He was going to participate in the prodigy tournament soon. He would probably only have time to meet the people from the Heavenly Treasure Pavilion after the Prodigy Tournament. Elder Zhu Xiu said, "Young master, the Prodigy Tournament is about to start. Our Migres Palace usually only allows 10 people to participate. Does young master have any opinions this time? Then I'll bring 10 people. You can arrange it. There's still half a month, so it'll probably take 5 days. I'll be in seclusion for the next 10 days. Du Xiaofu said. He could meet the people from the other palace. In the Prodigy Tournament, he had to get the Yin Spirit Crystal from the sealed ancient land. There was no mistake. Therefore, in these 10 days, Du Xiaofu wanted to prepare well. He had just broken through to the martial royal realm and a 7-star talisman master, so he needed to stabilize his cultivation. As for the mysterious move, the golden-winged Great Peng's innate ability, the thunder ultimacy, the star's ultimacy, the grass of immortality, the dark insight grass, and the purple flame demonic phoenix's innate ability, he needed to be fully prepared. After that, Du Xiaofu copied many of his master's refining methods from the Weapon Sovereign's Secret Weapon Manual and the Holy Body Manual onto jade slips and gave them to Elder Zhu Xiu and the others. This made the group of elders extremely excited. Many of their aged faces were so excited that they lost control and became moist. After a while, Du Xiaofu laid down a seal in the secret chamber of the Migres Palace. Light flowed out from between his eyebrows and the ancient desolate space appeared before him. A misty ancient desolate chi spread out and he entered the ancient desolate space. Du Xiaofu sat down cross-legged. He planned to use the 10 days he had in the ancient desolate space to comprehend the profoundness of the various techniques. The Prodigy Tournament was attended by countless people from the younger generation of the middle ground. Du Xiaofu was looking forward to it. He wanted to fight for the shocking benefits. Of course, as a young man, Du Xiaofu also wanted to know how strong his cultivation was in such a grand event. If he couldn't suppress everyone and compete with the top experts of the middle ground, how could he rebuild Tianwu Academy? How could he fight against that clan? From his eldest uncle Quang Zun and second uncle Feiyu, Du Xiaofu also knew that the ancient land was a place of great danger. It wasn't strange for the top experts of the younger generation of the 9 major powers to die there. Therefore, one needed to have absolute strength. Du Xiaofu formed a seal and his body was enveloped in golden light. He circulated the golden demonic rocks cultivation technique and comprehended the profoundness of the innate ability. Within the 7 stars light pool, the starlight energy purified the spiritual platform. Du Xiaofu originally had the nether demonic grass in his body, which could suppress all evil. This allowed Du Xiaofu to enter a state of comprehension in an extremely short amount of time. At dusk, the setting sun shrouded the stone city. Faint rays of sunlight illuminated the sky. The stone city was already a land of treasures. Swoosh, swoosh, outside the stone city, in the calm sky, 3 streaks of light suddenly flew over from the sunset. 3 auras surged in the sky. After a few flashes, they appeared in the sky above the stone city and landed in front of the Rock Emperor's tomb outside the Du family. Of the 3 figures, only 2 landed on the ground. One was a charming and holy girl with an extraordinary noble temperament. On her shoulder stood a golden macaque, which rippled with an aura that made one's heart tremble. The other was a black-robed youth. His eyes were pure black, and his entire body emitted a king's aura that could shake the world. The arrival of the 3 auras immediately alarmed the experts of the Du family. Whoosh whoosh, within the Du family, the medicine king Yi Wuming, Du Yunlong, Du Xiaoman, the silver-winged demonic condor, the mysterious flood dragon king, the extinction sword king, and the golden condor king immediately flew out. During this period of time, they had been guarding the stone city as a precaution. Who are you? The Rock Emperor's tomb is a forbidden area. Trespassers will be killed without mercy. In front of the array, the disciples of the World Society blocked them. Their auras fluctuated sharply. Get out of the way. The girl spoke. Her graceful figure was trembling, and her pitch-black eyes were moist. With a slight wave of her hand, dozens of World Society disciples were blown away, but no one was injured. The little golden macaque on the girl's shoulder exuded a golden talisman mystic inscription, and a dazzling golden light spread out. Then, it followed the girl and the black-robed youth into the talisman array. Back off. Du Xiaoman's eyes trembled as she looked at the girl and the golden macaque among the three figures. Her beautiful figure was excited, and she immediately went forward to ask the World Society disciples who were about to warn them to back off. That's the Deputy Palace Master. The silver-winged demonic condor, blue flame red leopard, and subduing tiger tyrant mastiff trembled. That girl was none other than the Deputy Palace Master Du Xiaoqing. It's them. Medicine King Yi Wuming's eyes lit up, and he immediately said, "Hurry up and open the array." Chi-la-la, suddenly, a talisman array master went forward and formed a seal, turning it into a talisman rune to retract the array in front of the tomb. Huff huff, as the array was retracted, the tomb was suddenly filled with multicolored radiance. Above the tomb, two spiritual herbs covered the entire barren hill, covering the sky and earth. Multicolored radiance soared into the sky, and energy fluctuations enveloped the entire stone city. In front of the tomb, the peerless girl walked towards the tombstone with trembling steps. Looking at the words, "Tomb of the Barren Country's Rock Emperor, Du Xiaofu," her ethereal eyes were moist, and tears streamed down her beautiful face. Swish swish, Medicine King Yi Wuming, Du Xiaoman, Du Yunlong, Silver-Winged Demonic Condor, Black Dragon King, and other experts flew over and stood quietly behind the girl. Chapter 855. Sister Xiaoman, what happened to brother? After a while, Du Xiaoqing caressed the tombstone and turned around to look at Du Xiaoman. She had rushed back to the dark forest from the central province. After arriving at the chaotic demon city, she had learned that her brother had been dead for a long time. Too many changes had happened in the past 2 years. When they heard the news, they immediately rushed back to the stone city. Everything was laid out before their eyes. At this moment, Du Xiaoqing's heart was filled with unbearable pain. She didn't expect that after separating from her brother, it would be forever. She couldn't accept it. We don't know either. He was severely injured and returned. His life force had dissipated. In the end, he didn't want to tell us. The ancient heaven sect and we tried our best, but we still couldn't keep him. Du Xiaoman walked up to Du Xiaoqing's side and said, "I'll tell you the details later. Don't be too sad. Brother." Du Xiaoqing raised her head. Within her beautiful figure, dazzling mysterious runes suddenly burst out like countless threads of energy. A terrifying aura shot up into the sky and swept out in all directions. What a powerful aura! That terrifying aura instantly caused the Medicine King Yi Wuming's expression to change. Under that aura, even he couldn't resist it. Roar! Under this terrifying aura, the silver-winged demonic eagle, blue flame red leopard, subduing tiger mastiff, mysterious dragon king, stone turtle king, ice python king, flame carp king, and other demonic beast experts suddenly prostrated themselves. That aura was so terrifying that they couldn't resist it at all. Third young master. The black-robed young man shouted. His eyes trembled. Suddenly, a tiger's roar came out of his mouth. Roar! This tiger's roar caused a sound wave to surge into the sky, and it was like a surging wave that shook the heavens and the earth to the point it rumbled and shook the hearts of all. The sound wave surged like a thunderclap. This tiger's roar spread out and resounded through the Savage Beast Mountain Range. It caused the demonic beasts in the Savage Beast Mountain Range to prostrate themselves and tremble. The Vice Palace Master's cultivation has reached such a terrifying level. The silver-winged demonic eagle and the others were shocked. The aura from Du Xiaoqing was many times stronger than 2 years ago. Is that the little tiger's human form? It has reached such a terrifying level. The Medicine King Yi Wuming looked at the black-robed young man. That familiar aura and the tiger's roar. It was the aura of the king-scaled demonic tiger's body. At this moment, Dr. Wuming was shocked. The aura of the king-scaled demonic tiger had also reached that level. Du Xiaoyao stood on Du Xiaoqing's shoulder and looked at the tombstone. Her eyes moved, but she did not show much reaction. There was an astonishing commotion. Under the dusk sky, Stone City trembled. A tide of people rushed out and stopped to look in the direction of the Du family. Then news spread that the Rock Emperor's sister, Du Xiaoqing, had returned. She was a terrifying expert. After a while, only the Medicine King Yi Wuming, Du Yunlong, Du Xiaoman, Du Zhenwu, Du Zhixiong, the silver-winged demonic eagle, the mysterious flood dragon king, the golden condor king, the solitary sword king, and a few other experts were present. Du Xiaoqing and the little tiger's expressions were solemn and sorrowful. They learned from Du Xiaoman and Du Yunlong what had happened after they left. Hearing that her brother's vitality had dissipated and that he couldn't obtain the dragon chi from the Stone Dragon Empire's imperial palace, Du Xiaoqing's aura fluctuated sharply. Her eyes were filled with anger. Hearing that her brother had died, Du Xiaoqing's ethereal eyes were filled with tears. She was heartbroken and her delicate body trembled. Sister Xiaoman, my brother is the brave god king of the Stone Dragon Empire. The first princess of the Stone Dragon Empire had a good relationship with my brother. Why couldn't she obtain the imperial palace's dragon chi to prolong my brother's life? If my brother could hold on until now, I could bring him to Sister Xiaoluo. My brother would definitely be fine. Du Xiaoqing's eyes were blurred. Her heart was filled with sorrow. If her brother still had a chance to live, she could bring him to Sister Xiaoluo and he would definitely be fine. Du Xiaoman's eyes were also red. She was filled with sorrow and helplessness. The imperial palace's dragon chi is too important to the Stone Dragon Empire. The Stone Dragon Empire couldn't bear to part with it and Xiaofu didn't want to force it either. As for the first princess, Qing Shengnan, a few days ago, she was engaged to the great Wilt Sek's holy son. Before Xiaofu's vitality ran out, he went to the Stone Dragon Empire's imperial capital, Dragon City. Although he didn't say anything, I know that he wanted to see the first princess one last time. Until now, the first princess, Qing Shengnan, hasn't come to Stone City. The Stone Dragon Empire is despicable. Du Xiaoqing was furious. Her peerless face turned cold. The Stone Dragon Empire isn't a good thing. Little Tiger angrily said. He slammed his hand on the armrest of his chair, shattering it into pieces. Where's Brother Qing Chun? Du Xiaoyao asked. The mysterious flood dragon king, ice python king, silver-winged demonic condor and the others looked at each other. They didn't know about Chen Qingchuan's existence. Senior Qing Chun has been in seclusion for a long time. But before he went into seclusion, he said that there's a turning point for the better. He told us to wait a little longer, Du Xiaoman said. Du Xiaoyao didn't say anything else. Her eyes were filled with doubt. She then smiled and said to Du Xiaoqing and Little Tiger, Little Qing, Little Tiger, don't worry. I'll talk to you about something later. Oh right, Little Qing, the Central Continent Prodigy competition is about to begin. The World Alliance is also planning to participate. We'll leave tomorrow morning. Do you want to go? Du Xiaoman asked. She knew Du Xiaoqing's strength. If Du Xiaoqing went, she would definitely be able to make a name for herself in the sealed ancient land. Du Xiaoman, Du Xiaoqing, Little Tiger and Du Xiaoyao roughly explained the situation of the prodigy competition. The World Alliance was also planning to send their younger generation to the prodigy competition. They had to leave tomorrow morning. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to make it in time. Du Xiaoman, Du Yunlong, Du Gui and Du Hao from the Du family, and the strongest of the younger generation would also be going to the prodigy competition. Even the silver-winged demonic condor would be going. Among the demonic beasts, the silver-winged demonic condor was definitely one of the younger generation. Since Big Brother isn't here, I'll go to such a grand event. Du Shaoqing nodded. She knew that if Big Brother was here, he would definitely participate in such a grand event. Du Shaoqing then said to Du Xiaoman, Sister Xiaoman, you guys go first. I still have some things to do. I'll come back later. The next morning, the entire stone city was gently shrouded in a thin mist. There were birds chirping in the forest, flying back and forth in the sky above the stone city. Roar, a black tiger flapped its wings and soared into the sky. Little Qin, why are you going to the Stone Dragon Empire's imperial capital? Du Xiaoyao asked Little Qin on Little Tiger's back. I'm going to avenge Big Brother. The Stone Dragon Empire is too despicable. Du Xiaoqing's eyes were cold. She was furious that the Stone Dragon Empire didn't replenish her brother's life force. That guy isn't dead. I'm sure he's still alive. Du Xiaoyao said to Du Xiaoqing and Little Tiger, I can sense him. He's still alive and well. I specially checked last night and his corpse wasn't in the tomb. Only the heavens knew that when Du Xiaoyao went to investigate last night, in front of the grass of immortality and dark insight grass, he almost couldn't help but swallow them. If he wasn't afraid that Du Xiaofu would come back to settle the score with him, he definitely wouldn't be able to hold back. You said Big Brother isn't dead. Big Brother is still alive. Du Xiaoqing's gaze stared intently at Du Xiaoyao. Her gaze, which was still cold just now, immediately became pleasantly surprised. Of course he's alive. How could he die so easily? Du Xiaoyao rolled her eyes and said, but the people of the Du family don't know. He must have encountered something. I'm afraid he's just pretending to be dead. He doesn't want to implicate the Du family. Brother Qin Chun, that guy, definitely knows the situation. It's good that he's not dead. Big Brother is still alive. Du Xiaoqing was ecstatic. She was so happy that she almost danced. Her smile was like an epiphyllum. Roar, Little Tiger roared happily and flapped its wings. Du Xiaoyao frowned, but the Stone Dragon Empire has gone too far. If you want to avenge that guy, then go. In the misty space, the space fluctuated and dense mist filled the air. Du Xiaofu sat cross-legged and immersed himself in comprehending the mysterious style. He needed time to comprehend all kinds of profound meanings. In the vast mountain range, the mountain peaks soared to the sky. The mist filled the air and the spiritual energy was oppressive. It was like a fairyland. The palace on the mountain peak was surrounded by spiritual birds and exotic flowers. In front of the palace, a 21 or 22-year-old young man in a red robe slightly raised his head and looked at the sky. There seemed to be a soul in his eyes that no one dared to look at. His red robe was embroidered with many exquisite patterns that seemed to blend perfectly with him. His tall and slender body was perfectly outlined. Holy Son, we will depart for the prodigy competition tomorrow. Is there anything else you need? An old man came forward and asked the young man respectfully. There is a great opportunity in the sealed ancient land. I will obtain it. However, the benefits of the Stone Dragon Empire are also extremely important to me. They are not inferior to the benefits of the divine lightning. As the young man spoke, faint golden hair flowed behind his head. His entire body seemed to be enveloped by light. His voice was light, causing those who heard it to feel a surge of warmth entering their hearts, causing their minds to ripple. He was the holy son of the Great Luan sect, Dongli Chihuang. He was a reincarnated expert of the Great Luan sect. He had an unimaginable position in the sect. Holy Son, do you have any plans? The old man raised his head and asked. I don't want Xingnan to know about this. Everything must be done flawlessly. We can't even let the Great Luan sect appear. Dongli Chihuang said. Then what should we do? The treasure of the Stone Dragon Empire must be obtained by the Holy Sun. The old man was puzzled. The Stone Dragon Empire is nothing to worry about. However, I don't want Xingnan to know about it. Dongli Qihuang's eyes glowed and he said indifferently, I feel that the barren country is an opportunity. The barren country's strength should be above the Stone Dragon Empire. It will be enough if the barren country starts a war with the Stone Dragon Empire. The old man's eyes flickered and he said, the barren country has the ancient heaven sect behind it. I'm afraid it will be difficult for us to take action. Chapter 856. It's just a small country. The ancient heaven sect won't do anything for a small country. Besides, I'm just borrowing their strength. Dongli Qihuang smiled and said, the old emperor of the Stone Dragon Empire is worried about his life and wants to improve. I heard that there are treasures in the stone city of the barren country. I believe the old emperor will be interested. The barren country and the Stone Dragon Empire have been enemies for a long time. As long as someone does something in the middle, it will be enough. I understand. The old man nodded and smiled. Then I'll leave it to you. The prodigy competition will last for half a year. I hope I can hear good news in half a year. Dongli Qihuang smiled and said, at that time, if I can get the benefits from the Stone Dragon Empire, I will reach new heights. The old man nodded and said, then I'll congratulate you on your triumphant return. Stone Dragon Empire, Imperial Dragon City. The sun was shining brightly in the calm sky. Suddenly, 3 figures flew across the sky. 3 figures, 2 big and 1 small, were wrapped in rainbows. They broke through the sky and disappeared. This is it. In a short time, the 3 figures landed outside the Stone Dragon Empire's imperial palace. A little golden macaque landed on the shoulder of a beautiful young girl. The 3 figures were Du Shaoqing, Du Xiaoyao, and Xiaohu, who had come to the imperial capital Dragon City. Is the imperial dragon Qi in the imperial palace? Du Shaoqing looked at the magnificent imperial palace and asked Du Xiaoyao who was on her shoulder. The imperial dragon Qi is in the imperial palace. I heard it's a treasure. It's the accumulation of the empire's fortune. Du Xiaoyao glanced at Du Shaoqing and said, what do you want to do? Since they don't want to give up the imperial dragon Qi to save my brother, I'll destroy it. I want to avenge my brother. Du Shaoqing puffed up her cheeks. She was furious. She wanted to destroy the imperial dragon Qi to vent her anger. Do you think that guy will go crazy if we do this? Du Xiaoyao's gaze turned, and he was a little worried. My brother must have given the first princess face. That's why he didn't ask for the imperial dragon Qi. The first princess is heartless. She wanted to follow my brother. Why should he give her face? Du Shaoqing was angry. Although she didn't know much, she could feel the first princess Xingnan's relationship with her brother. Alright, the imperial palace's dragon Qi is a treasure. I wonder how it tastes. Little demon Du smiled evilly. That smile was obviously malicious. The imperial dragon palace. The imperial palace. As Du Shaoqing, Du Xiaoyao, and Xiaohu appeared in the air in front of the imperial palace, a dozen armored imperial palace guards rushed out from the imperial palace. Their auras were fierce as they berated Du Shaoqing and the others. Get out! Little Tiger yelled. His voice was like a roar. Air waves rippled in the air. His voice was like thunder. In a split second, a terrifying force of pressure swept out from Xiaohu's body like a tornado, sweeping towards the palace, causing the entire palace to tremble. Little Tiger's strength had reached a terrifying level. Bang! 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 Dozens of imperial palace guards were smashed into a mist of blood by Little Tiger's yell. Emperor of the Stone Dragon Empire, come out. Du Shaoqing looked into the depths of the imperial palace. Her yell echoed throughout the imperial palace and Dragon City. Someone's breaking into the imperial palace. A strong enemy is coming. The imperial palace trembled. People rushed to the streets and gathered in the direction of the imperial palace. Whoosh, almost at the same time, noble chi surged from all over the imperial dragon city. Whoosh! 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 At the same time, many figures leaped into the air from within the imperial palace. Most of them were Pulse Spiritual Realm and 5-star Spiritual Talisman Masters. There were many noble chi, but not many. There were many marquis in the imperial palace. However, most of these marquis were guarding outside. There wouldn't be many of them in the imperial palace. I wonder who's come to the Stone Dragon Empire. A faint voice came from the depths of the imperial palace. A figure wrapped in a faint golden light flew over. An invisible force spread out. The figure flashed and appeared in the sky above the imperial palace. In the faint golden light, a dense and majestic chi spread out. It seemed to be connected to the imperial palace. It was like a dragon had descended. It was an old man in his 80s. His long black hair fell to his shoulders. A few strands of golden hair were very eye-catching. His eyes were deep and rippled like the vast sea. Greetings, grandfather. Inside the imperial palace, several people flew over. The first was a beautiful girl, the second Princess Cheng Yen. Beside her was a chubby young man, the third Prince Cheng Chao. Seeing the old man, the two of them bowed respectfully. The old man was the Emperor of the Stone Dragon Empire, Cheng Fancher. Looking at the two figures and the little golden monkey in the sky, he felt the chi from the black-robed young man and the beautiful girl. His eyes flickered. It's them. Cheng Yen looked at Du Shaoqing and Du Xiaoyao. She had seen them in Tianwu Academy. Naturally, she knew them. Whoosh! Whoosh! In a short time, dozens of figures flew over from all over the imperial palace. Their noble chi surged. The first few people were the North Vanquishing Lord, the South Vanquishing Lord, the East Vanquishing Lord, and the others. Ouyang Ling was also among them. Seeing Du Shaoqing and the other two, the North Vanquishing Lord and the others were shocked. Other than the little tiger, they naturally knew Du Shaoqing and Du Xiaoyao. You're the Emperor of the Stone Dragon Empire. Du Shaoqing looked at the old Emperor, Cheng Fanshi, with a cold look in her eyes. I'm the previous Emperor of the Stone Dragon Empire. Cheng Fanshi's eyes narrowed. He had seen this girl before and knew her background. He said to Du Shaoqing, I know you. You're the sister of the brave God King, Du Xiaofu. May I know why you're here today? Emperor, something's wrong. Du Shaoqing looked directly at the Emperor Cheng Fanshi and said, hand over the dragon chi, or I'll raze the imperial palace to the ground today. What? Hearing Du Shaoqing's words, everyone in the sky was dumbfounded and trembled. The North Vanquishing Lord, the South Vanquishing Lord, and the East Vanquishing Lord also looked at each other. The imperial palace's dragon chi is where the fortune of the empire lies. It can't be handed over to anyone. Little girl, for the sake of your brother, the brave God King, you can leave. Cheng Fanshi's eyes were blazing. Asking for the imperial palace's dragon chi was tantamount to destroying the empire. As the Emperor of the Stone Dragon Empire, he represented the dignity of the empire. Naturally, he couldn't lower his head. However, he knew that the girl in front of him didn't come with good intentions. She had just killed more than a dozen guards, which was enough to express her intentions. My master has contributed greatly to the Stone Dragon Empire, but the Stone Dragon Empire doesn't want to replenish the Imperial Palace's dragon chi. What's the use of the Imperial Palace's dragon chi? Destroy it. Little Tiger stepped forward, a domineering and fierce ferocity spreading from his pitch-black eyes. His awe-inspiring kingly aura caused the surrounding figures to tremble. The old emperor, Cheng Fantiang, also felt apprehensive. Only then did he confirm that the young girl and the black-robed young man in front of him had come for the dead Du Xiaofu. The brave God King has contributed greatly to the empire and the empire will remember it. However, the imperial palace's dragon Qi is the fortune of the empire. I can't hand it over. Even if the brave God King was still alive, he would understand. Moreover, the brave God King also understood it. The Emperor Qing Fanshi said as he looked at Du Xiaoqing and the little tiger. He was afraid of the girl and the youth in front of him. So, this girl is here for Xiaofu. What should come will come. The North vanquishing prince's eyes moved. The experts of the Xie family were standing beside him. Xie Fei was also among them. Her beautiful eyes moved slightly as she watched quietly. My brother is no longer here. Why are you still talking about him? Do you think my brother is easy to bully? Du Xiaoqing was furious. However, the Emperor Qing Fanshi shouted coldly, I'll ask you one last time. Hand over the imperial palace's dragon Qi or let me raze the imperial palace to the ground. Little girl, this is the imperial capital of the Stone Dragon Empire. It's an important place in the imperial palace. Although your strength is extraordinary, I'm afraid it's not enough. For the sake of the brave God King, go back. The Emperor Qing Fanshi said. His torch-like eyes were rippling. Although the girl and youth in front of him were extraordinary, this was the imperial palace. The Emperor Qing Fanshi wasn't afraid. Raise the imperial palace to the ground. The little tiger shouted as he stepped forward. How dare you? Take a step forward and kill without mercy. A commander of the imperial palace guards leaped out. He was a martial marquis and was already a half-king. As the commander of the imperial palace guards, he had a high status and was very fierce. Ant! The little tiger shouted as he turned into a black ray of light. His aura suddenly exploded. It was a terrifying and domineering aura that made people's hearts tremble. When the aura exploded, it resonated with the heavens and earth. Not good. The old Lord Emperor seemed to have sensed something and his expression changed greatly. Boom! Everything happened too quickly, faster than anyone could have imagined. The black-robed young man appeared in front of the guard commander like a bolt of lightning. His eyes were filled with ferocity and killing intent. He lifted his hand and punched out. Bang, bang, bang. The commander of the imperial palace guards was a half-king. He didn't have the chance to dodge and his body exploded into a bloody mist. His eyes were filled with fear as he died with remaining grievances. The surrounding people were shocked and terrified. The mysterious youth only used one punch to kill a half-king. How dare you? The old Lord Emperor roared. He couldn't hold back his anger. His body was wrapped in golden light as he punched towards the little tiger. This punch shook the void and a dazzling golden light appeared. The surrounding heaven and earth energy surged with terrifying might. At the same time, the little tiger's fist glowed with black runes and a claw attack grabbed towards the old Lord Emperor. The claw attack was filled with black mist. It was unfathomable and seemed to be able to swallow everything. Boom! The fist and claw collided with a loud bang. Then, there was a violent explosion in the air. Thump, thump. The little tiger's figure suddenly staggered back a few steps. However, the old Lord Qing Fanshi's body was also shaking. Although he seemed to have the upper hand, his old face was extremely shocked. Roar! The little tiger staggered back with a fierce look in his eyes. Suddenly, black runes spread out from his body and he turned into his true form. A huge black tiger suddenly spread its wings and circled in the air. The gigantic black tiger was crouching, its body densely covered in ink-black scales. It was as if it was cast from the deep night sky, yet it also emitted a deep golden color. Its wings glowed with a golden light, and the mighty aura it exuded was like that of a supreme tiger. The first ascension of a beast emperor. Looking at the terrifying huge black tiger in front of him, the old Lord Qingfanshi's eyes were filled with jealousy and shock. He could sense the supreme aura of the tiger clan emanating from the giant black tiger, but he couldn't tell what kind of tiger clan demonic beast it was. Roar! The black tiger roared and flapped its wings. Black runes soared into the sky, bringing with it a tornado-like airflow that swept across the sky. The fierce tiger pounced on its prey like a black thunderbolt. It raised its tiger claws and fiercely tore at Qingfanshi. This claw seemed to want to tear the sky apart. It was accompanied by a fierce and domineering fluctuation that shook the surrounding space until it was on the verge of collapse. Crack, crack, below, at the edge of the imperial palace, a large number of golden palaces were shattered. The ground cracked open. I just reached the Beast Emperor realm. It's not enough. The old Lord Qingfanshi shouted. The aura in his body gushed out without reservation. It was the aura of a martial emperor at the peak of the mysterious peak. He turned his hand and shook it, forming a hand seal with the majesty of an emperor. A golden palm seal surged out, covered with endless runes and royal aura, and collided directly. Boom! The claw and palm seals collided. A large number of runes surged. The ink-black runes collided with the golden runes. In the dazzling light, the golden palm seal shattered and the claw seal dissipated. Whoosh, whoosh, the little tiger's huge body was pushed back again. The air billowed, and the ground below exploded. A large number of palaces were destroyed. Thud, thud, this time, the old Lord Qingfanshi's body was also pushed back. It seemed that he did not have the upper hand at all. The old Emperor Qingfantiang's eyes were filled with astonishment. He was astonished. The black tiger's cultivation base was only at the initial stage of the martial marquis realm, but it was not weaker than his martial emperor realm, which was at the peak of the mystical realm. The tiger tribe's supreme aura was too terrifying. Boom! The old Lord Emperor's gaze was solemn. In his hand, a battle saber flashed with runes. Its powerful aura was terrifying. It almost filled the entire void. This was a top-notch high-grade Dao artifact. The ancient aura emanating from the battle saber seemed to have surpassed the level of a Dao artifact. The aura was frightening. The old Lord Qingfanshi had obtained this battle saber from Dongli Qihuang of the Great Luan sect. As for Dongli Qihuang's battle saber, it was from the 3 emperors of the 3 great empires that he had killed in Enlightenment City. Do you have a top-notch Dao artifact? Du Shaoqing walked up to the little tiger and said to the little tiger, leave it to me. Little girl, can you give me some face? The North Vanquishing Prince's eyes moved. He took a few steps forward, wanting to stop Du Shaoqing. It seemed that he wanted to stop Du Shaoqing, but in fact, the North Vanquishing Prince knew that the old Lord Emperor was powerful and had a top-notch Dao artifact. Moreover, the inside of the palace was extraordinary. He knew very well how powerful it was. He did not want these hot-blooded guys to be hurt. Of course, the North Vanquishing Prince did not want these guys to really raze the palace and Dragon City to the ground. This was not what he wanted to see. At this moment, the North Vanquishing Prince's heart was very complicated. Old Lord, my brother respects you. You are my brother's family, so I respect you too. So, please don't stop me. I'm here to seek justice for my brother. Du Shaoqing turned around and said to the North Vanquishing Prince. She knew that the North Vanquishing Prince was her brother's family, so she still respected him. Chapter 857. Shaoqing. From the crowd, a beautiful silhouette walked out. She had a graceful figure, exuding a cold aura. Her large and beautiful eyes flashed with coldness, making it difficult for strangers to get close to her. But at this moment, when she stared at Du Shaoqing, a smile could be seen in her eyes. She was Ouyang Xuan. She had been in the imperial capital's Wang residence for a while. However, her beautiful figure was much thinner than before. "Sister Xuan, I'm here to seek justice for my brother." "Don't stop me," Du Xiaoqing said to Ouyang Xuan. "I can't stop you. Be careful." Ouyang Xuan nodded. She stood at the side. She knew that she couldn't stop Ouyang Xuan and couldn't participate. "Sister Xuan, let's talk later." After Du Xiaoqing finished speaking to Ouyang Xuan, she turned around and looked at the old Emperor Qing Fancher. Within her pure eyes, a red light started to spread from her body. It was as if flames were jumping. A terrifying green and red light started to spread from her body. Boom! A terrifying aura swept out. The energy waves were like a volcano that was about to erupt. A terrifying aura instantly descended on this ancient land. At this moment, the old Emperor Qing Fancher's old face was filled with shock when he felt the terrifying aura from Du Xiaoqing's body. The peak of the Beast Emperor realm. Qing Fancher was shocked. At this moment, the aura from Du Xiaoqing's body had already reached the peak of the Beast Emperor realm. She was only half a step away from the other side of the Beast Emperor realm. That suppressive aura was accompanied by a burning aura. It caused the air in the surrounding space to evaporate into white smoke. The surrounding living beings all felt pain on their skin. Under that burning aura, they felt as if their souls were about to be set on fire. Humph! Du Xiaoqing snorted and waved her hand. Rolling flames accompanied by mysterious runes erupted like a volcano. They instantly enveloped Qing Fancher. The flames were so hot that it made people crawl in pain. Even their souls would wither. Qing Fancher was shocked. That aura made him feel a great danger. He immediately waved the saber in his hand, and a saber light swept toward the green and red flames. The surging flames suddenly wrapped around the blade light in a strange manner and speed, forming a blazing sea of fire. With a terrifying might, it incinerated the blade light into nothingness. Qi La. Within the sea of flames, Du Xiaoqing's beautiful figure flashed out. In her slender hand, a handprint seemed to have pierced through space, instantly passing through Qing Fancher's war blade and suppressing the surroundings with great pressure. Then, it landed on old Emperor Qing Fancher's body like a bolt of lightning. Sovereign Qi protection. The sudden change made Qing Fancher's soul tremble under the pressure of Du Xiaoqing's might. His expression suddenly changed. An invisible aura in his body resonated with the imperial palace. A golden dragon-shaped shadow immediately coiled around his body. Qi La. Du Xiaoqing's handprint landed. The golden dragon-shaped shadow immediately trembled. After a while, it was destroyed by the mysterious runes in the flames of the handprint. However, the handprint also dissipated. Imperial Palace Dragon Qi Protection. Du Xiaoyao floated alone in the air. Looking at the disappearing golden dragon-shaped shadow on Qing Fancher's body, her eyes flickered. Dang dang, although Qing Fancher blocked Du Xiaoqing's attack, he staggered back in one blow. His old face began to pale. So powerful. The nobles who were watching were all shocked. The girl's strength was too terrifying. Boom! Suddenly, the depths of the imperial palace trembled. It came from the direction of the Golden Dragon Palace. Golden clouds began to emit. It was as if the entire imperial capital Dragon City had come alive. The space kept trembling. An immense pressure extended from the sky and the earth. Then, a figure leaped out from the depths of the imperial palace. A chubby middle-aged man in a dragon robe leaped into the air. Golden clouds covered his body. There was a golden dragon-shaped shadow faintly circling around him, emitting the aura of an emperor. Greetings, Emperor Cheng. As the figure appeared, countless people in the imperial palace bowed. North Vanquishing Lord, South Vanquishing Lord, and East Vanquishing Lord were no exception. They all bowed. That was Emperor Cheng. He had never left the imperial palace. Even when the three empires invaded the imperial capital, it was the old emperor who stepped in. At this moment, Emperor Qing floated in the air. His aura connected the sky and the earth. It was as if every move he made contained the power of heaven and earth that could suppress everything. For the sake of the brave God King, miss, you should leave. Otherwise, don't blame me for being rude. Emperor Qing spoke. His voice was filled with great majesty, causing the entire imperial capital Dragon City to tremble. Looks like you're the emperor of the Stone Dragon Empire. You bullied my brother. I'd like to see how you're going to be rude. Du Shaoqing curled her lips as she gazed at Emperor Cheng's aura, and faintly felt some fear. That aura was unusual. It wasn't Emperor Cheng's aura. It was the aura of an emperor that connected the sky and the earth. Miss, don't blame me for being rude. I have to capture you first so that the imperial capital Dragon City won't be destroyed by you. Emperor Cheng's eyes moved. A special golden light flickered in his eyes as he blinked. At the same time, a golden light was emitted from his body. It channeled a terrifying energy in the imperial palace like an erupting volcano. Roar! In the end, that power turned into an enormous golden dragon. Its entire body was golden, and it was several hundred meters long. The giant dragon's shadow was majestic and ferocious. It shone with boundless golden light. Accompanied by the aura of the heavens and earth, the entire imperial capital Dragon City trembled. Billions of people trembled in fear. Finally, it flew towards Du Shaoqing. The imperial palace's draconic chi. The north vanquishing prince and the other kings were shocked. That was the imperial palace's draconic chi. It was the most terrifying thing in the Stone Dragon Empire. The draconic chi gathered the fate of the empire and the faith of countless people. It was the power of the heavens and earth. Du Shaoqing walked forward gracefully. Every step she took, a fiery lotus formed under her feet. She looked holy and charming. She was ethereal like a fairy in the fire. She waved her hand and a huge cyan-red flame condensed into the shadow of a cyan-red giant bird. It flapped its wings and appeared. In an instant, a terrifying aura descended on this part of the heavens and earth. The cyan-red giant bird's shape was like a phoenix or a crane. It stood on one leg with red markings on its body and a white beak. Its body was covered with red stripes and beautiful cyan feathers. At this moment, countless eyes in the sky trembled. Under the pressure of the cyan-red giant bird, everyone's meridians and souls couldn't help but tremble. Those who were weaker were directly crushed to the point of prostrating on the ground. It's the Baifeng divine bird. It's the Baifeng divine bird. It's rumored that Du Shaoqing is the true form of the Baifeng divine bird. It looks like it's true. The Baifeng divine bird. That's an ancient divine bird. The surrounding kings were shocked. That shadow was the Baifeng divine bird. It was an ancient divine bird, a terrifying divine bird in the legends. Whoosh! The Baifeng divine bird flapped its wings and met the golden dragon's shadow head-on. It then opened its mouth and roaring flames accompanied by mysterious runes erupted like a volcano. The high temperature of the flames made people's souls tremble. It formed a blazing sea of fire. The two phantoms collided with each other, emitting a dull sound, causing the vast void of the imperial palace to rumble and tremble violently. At this moment, if it weren't for the protection of the great array in the depths of the imperial palace, it would have exploded. With such a collision, the surrounding kings were also forced to retreat. Their faces were pale. That frightening collision shook the souls of the nobles. That kind of power was too terrifying. The Baifeng divine bird's shadow and the golden dragon's shadow were rapidly changing their movements. They were like living creatures, constantly urging the beast energy to collide with each other. The shadows flew, the golden dragon roared, and the Baifeng divine bird flapped its wings. They kept exchanging blows. Golden light shone brightly, and the flames created huge waves. Whoosh! after a while, the two shadows almost disappeared at the same time. Du Xiaoqing's beautiful figure staggered back a few feet. Her face was slightly pale. The terrifying golden dragon had the power of heaven and earth. It had the advantage of time and place. Du Xiaoqing was at a disadvantage. Emperor Cheng's body shook. He had the upper hand. This was the Imperial Palace. Emperor Cheng had the Imperial Palace's dragon energy to use. Not to mention the Beast Emperor realm cultivators at the peak of the Nirvana realm. Even if stronger cultivators came, as long as they were in the Imperial Palace, they would be protected by the heavens with the Imperial Palace's dragon energy. The Imperial Palace's draconic energy. What a treasure! Du Xiaoyao's eyes shone. She felt the Imperial Palace's draconic energy. It was a great treasure. If she could devour the Imperial Palace's draconic energy, it would be greatly beneficial to her. You're quite strong. However, this is the Imperial Palace. No one is allowed to behave atrociously. Emperor Cheng's eyes shone with majestic golden light. Suddenly, the void trembled. A shining golden seal appeared in front of him. There was a golden dragon on the seal. The golden light was like a rising sun. Roar, with the appearance of the seal, a dragon's roar was heard. It had a mysterious and ancient aura. The seal shone brightly, affecting heaven and earth. The pressure spread throughout the imperial capital Dragon City and was still spreading in all directions. The Golden Dragon Imperial Jade Seal. All the kings were shocked. That was the Golden Dragon Imperial Jade Seal of the Imperial Palace. It contained the fortune of a country and gathered the power of faith of a country. It was nourished by the Imperial Palace's draconic energy. It was definitely a terrifying treasure. At this moment, the Golden Dragon Imperial Jade Seal shone brightly and covered Emperor Cheng. It made Emperor Cheng's aura even more terrifying. It was as if he could resonate with heaven and earth. The Imperial Palace's draconic energy wrapped around him, forming an extremely powerful and majestic force. Under such pressure, Du Xiaoqing and the little tiger also started to look serious. What a powerful treasure! I don't think I can eat it. Du Xiaoyao's eyes moved. It could feel the extremely powerful force contained in the treasure. The majestic force from the seal made it difficult for it to swallow. Chapter 858. Go! Emperor Cheng shouted as he threw out the Golden Dragon Imperial Jade Seal in his hand. The Imperial Palace's dragon chi fluctuated and swept towards Du Xiaoqing. The Golden Dragon Imperial Jade Seal contained the long history of the empire. There were many emperors in the Stone Dragon Empire, but there was only one Golden Dragon Imperial Jade Seal. It was worshipped by the millions of citizens of the Stone Dragon Empire and gathered the dragon vein energy of the empire. The Golden Dragon Imperial Jade Seal was nourished by the Imperial Dragon Chi, so it had a mysterious power and endless Imperial Dragon Chi. It was definitely a precious treasure. It was even more precious than a high-grade Dao artifact. The Golden Dragon Imperial Jade Seal couldn't be made by a talisman master. No matter how powerful a talisman master was, he could refine the shape of the Golden Dragon Jade Seal, but he couldn't refine the mysterious soul power of the Golden Dragon Jade Seal. It needed countless years of nourishment and the accumulation of a country's destiny to have such a pressure. Roar! The Golden Dragon Jade Seal swept towards Du Xiaoqing, and it seemed to be supported by 6 enormous golden dragon silhouettes as it flashed in unison. The Imperial Palace's draconic chi surged, and it contained an ancient might that could topple mountains and overturn seas, and it seemed as if it intended to crush all living beings in the surroundings. Du Xiaoqing attacked again. A large expanse of green-red flames swept out, covering the sky and rushing towards the Golden Dragon Jade Seal. However, at this moment, the Golden Dragon Imperial Jade Seal was protected by the Imperial Dragon Imperial Jade Seal. With the help of the Imperial Dragon Imperial Jade Seal, it forced Du Xiaoqing back. Roar! The little tiger roared. Black runes surged on its huge body. It resisted the golden dragon imperial jade seal together with Du Shaoqing. Roar! The golden dragon imperial jade seal had 6 golden dragon shadows supporting it. Even with the help of the little tiger, they were still pushed back. The space around them twisted and the entire imperial dragon city shook. The imperial dragon imperial jade seal's imperial dragon imperial jade seal was extremely terrifying. Boom! Suddenly, a terrifying aura erupted again. It was as if a terrifying lord had come into being. A dazzling golden light exploded like a scorching sun, giving people an unparalleled sense of oppression. Just as Du Shaoqing and the little tiger were retreating, a huge golden ape with a translucent body suddenly appeared. Aoo! The golden ape roared. Its sparkling and translucent body was wrapped in multicolored light. Its eyes were intelligent, as if it was born with spiritual eyes that overlooked everything in the world. Boom! The golden ape suddenly punched out. Hazy light shone as if the world had just been created. The space in front of the fist became blurry and distorted, as if it could push through all directions and suppress everything. This punch directly blocked the golden dragon imperial jade seal and stopped it in midair. At this moment, the huge golden ape was like a supreme being that came from the beginning of the world. The misty aura caused all the surrounding creatures to tremble. That thing is a precious treasure. It is nourished by the destiny of a nation and the dragon chi of the imperial palace. It contains the most majestic dragon chi of the imperial palace and the mysterious energy of heaven and earth. It is protected by heaven and earth, and there is nothing we can do in the imperial palace. Let's leave the imperial palace. The golden ape turned around and said to Du Shaoqing and the little tiger, its golden eyes slightly focused. Humph! Du Xiaoyao snorted and then retreated. However, she formed a seal with her hands, and a monstrous green-red flame swept across the imperial palace. Sizzle! Suddenly, the imperial palace was surrounded by raging flames. Large areas of the palace were razed to the ground and turned into ashes. Only the imperial palace was protected by a large array that resisted the flames. Roar! Seeing this, the little tiger's huge body retreated. At the same time, it flapped its wings and waved its tiger claws. A terrifying aura rippled and a large area of the imperial palace collapsed. The ground cracked and collapsed in an instant like an earthquake. Retreat! Seeing that Du Shaoqing and the little tiger had retreated, Du Xiaoyao released an inexplicable pressure with her fist and collided with the golden dragon imperial jade seal. Boom! A low dull sound resounded in the sky. The sound waves were sonorous and deafening. Runes and energy spread all over the sky. The terrifying energy caused everyone's pupils to shrink and the void to distort and explode. Whoosh! Taking advantage of the situation, Du Xiaoyao's body turned into a golden lightning and retreated quickly. In an instant, she was far away from the imperial palace. After retrieving the golden dragon imperial jade seal, Emperor Cheng's expression was extremely serious. He looked around and saw that the outer area of the imperial palace had been razed to the ground by Du Shaoqing and the huge black tiger. Since the founding of the Stone Dragon Empire, the Stone Dragon Empire had never suffered such a blow. That seal treasure is too strong. Du Xiaoqing's beautiful figure came to Du Xiaoyao's side. Her ethereal beautiful eyes were slightly focused. The aura of the seal was something that she couldn't do anything about. Don't worry. As long as we are outside the imperial palace, even that seal can't do anything to us. I'm afraid that they won't even dare to leave the imperial palace. Du Xiaoyao said with certainty. Nothing could escape its prying eyes. This was its innate ability. It's a pity that we can't destroy the imperial palace to avenge the third young master. The little tiger transformed back into its human form. Its pure black eyes were filled with murderous intent. Du Shaoqing, you have caused a ruckus in the Stone Dragon Empire's imperial capital and destroyed my imperial palace. Are you declaring war on the Stone Dragon Empire? Emperor Cheng looked at Du Shaoqing from afar. The imperial dragon aura circled around his body and his monarch's aura spread out. He looked at the raised outer area of the imperial palace and his heart was filled with anger. This was a national humiliation. Since the founding of the Stone Dragon Empire, the Stone Dragon Empire had never suffered such humiliation. However, it happened during his reign. If it wasn't for the help of the World Society and the Heavenly Beast Hall, my brother and the experts led by him, the Stone Dragon Empire would have collapsed. If the desolate country were to declare war on the Stone Dragon Empire now, the Stone Dragon Empire wouldn't be able to withstand a single blow. Du Shaoqing shouted. From Du Xiaoman and Du Yunlong, she also knew about the battle at Enlightenment City. In the end, the Stone Dragon Empire didn't mention her brother at all. Thinking about it now, Du Shaoqing was even more furious. She felt that it was unfair for her brother. Hearing Du Xiaoqing's words, Emperor Cheng, old Emperor Cheng Fancher, and the others were all speechless. Emperor Cheng and old Emperor Cheng Fancher also knew that if the desolate country were to declare war on the Stone Dragon Empire now, the Stone Dragon Empire wouldn't be able to resist. Especially the three terror overlords before them. They could wipe out everything and kill their way to the imperial palace. The seal can't protect us forever. After the Prodigy tournament, I'll come again. The Stone Dragon Empire can't keep the imperial dragon aura in the imperial palace. Du Shaoqing shouted. The seal was too strong. They could only think of a way to deal with it when the time came. In the imperial capital, Dragon City, countless gazes watched the three figures leave. Then, they looked at the palace that had been razed to the ground. Everyone was silent. The noble kings were speechless. Du Shaoqing and the other two weren't a noble king's match. Shaoqing, are you going to the Prodigy tournament? After a while, Ouyang Shuang asked Du Shaoqing, Du Xiaoyao, and Little Tiger in a side hall of the Lord of Zhennan's residence. Yes, I want to go on behalf of my brother. Du Shaoqing nodded at Ouyang Shuang. We'll be leaving soon. Otherwise, we won't be able to make it in time. Take me with you. I haven't been out for a long time. I can go with you, Ouyang Shuang said to Du Shaoqing. Sister Shuang, I heard that the sealed ancient land is very dangerous. It's a place of great danger. Du Shaoqing was worried. Ouyang Shuang was still a martial lord. It would be very dangerous for her to go there. With you guys around, I won't be in too much danger. Ouyang Shuang smiled. Her beautiful face was beautiful, but she looked a little haggard. She had lost her usual vigor. This, Du Shaoqing hesitated. Then, she looked at Du Xiaoyao and Little Tiger. She didn't know what to do. She didn't want Sister Shuang to be in danger. Don't look at me. She didn't ask me. Du Xiaoyao rolled her eyes at Du Shaoqing and walked to the side. Ouyang Shuang looked at Du Shaoqing. Her big eyes rippled. Shaoqing, are you really not going to take me? If you don't take me, then I can only go alone. Du Shaoqing could only helplessly nod her head as she stared at Ouyang Shuang's large and beautiful eyes. Alright, let's go together. Spirit Realm, Migre's Palace. In the misty space, a purple soft-armored figure sat cross-legged. Golden light rippled around his body like little golden snakes. Phew, a moment later, Du Xiaofu's hand seals formed. The golden light on his body shuttled back and forth. Then, he exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. Chapter 859. His eyes opened and radiance shot out from within. Golden lightning and purple flames flickered within them. They were full of vitality. Phew! Du Xiaofu took a deep breath and smiled. During the time he spent in the desolate ancient space, Not only had he stabilized his cultivation and aura of the initial martial emperor realm, but his comprehension of various ultimates had also improved by another level. It's about time. Du Xiaofu stood up and stretched his body. Feeling the changes in his body and the vigorous energy fluctuations, a faint smile appeared on his face. He couldn't help but feel a sense of comfort in his heart. Young Hall Master, it's about time. This time, Tao Yu, Yu Mingyuan and the rest of the 9 people from Migre's palace will participate in the prodigy competition. Including Young Hall Master, there will be 10 people. At that time, there will be more disciples from Dubhe Palace and Mizar Palace. After a while, Elder Zhu Xiu said to Du Xiaofu. Du Xiaofu nodded. Compared to Migre's Palace Hall, Fekta Palace Hall, and Merak Palace Hall, the disciples of Mizar Palace Hall and Dubhe Palace Hall were many times more. Naturally, they would send out more disciples. Oh right, young Hall Master, a young man has been waiting for you at Migre's palace for a few days. Elder Zhu Xiu said to Du Xiaofu. What's his name? Du Xiaofu was stunned. He did not seem to know anyone in the spirit domain. Elder Zhu Xiu smiled and said, Young Hall Master should still remember this person. He is the extraordinary young man that Young Hall Master saved from official Qin during the 7 Palace Conference. I think his name is Stone. Is it him? Du Xiaofu smiled. Naturally, he still remembered that young man. He had a good impression of him. After a while, Du Xiaofu saw the young man who was as strong as a bear in the side hall. He looked to be about 22 or 23 years old. He looked dull, but his cultivation was at the martial king realm. He was able to enter the top 5 in the 7 Palace Conference. It was enough to show his talent. You're the weapon emperor, Xiao Feng. It's good that you're all right. I thought something would happen to you. When he saw Du Xiaofu, the robust young man instantly stood up and revealed a smile while the wisp of worry between his brows was restrained. Why are you worried about me? Du Xiaofu smiled. The robust young man looked at Du Xiaofu and said seriously, You are my savior. If anything happens to you, I will definitely avenge you. Du Xiaofu could not help but smile. He could see that this young man was simple and honest. These words came from the bottom of his heart and were not spoken casually. What's your name? After smiling, Du Xiaofu asked the robust young man. I'm an orphan. I don't have a name or surname. The people in the village call me Stone. The robust young man smiled honestly. Stone. Du Xiaofu's eyes flickered as he asked, Let me ask you something. How did you learn that movement technique? Movement technique? Is it the movement technique that you taught me? Stone raised his head slightly and looked at Du Xiaofu as he asked. That's right. How did you learn that movement technique? Du Xiaofu was curious. That was Dongli Qingqing's movement technique, the carefree steps. Back then, he was taught by Dongli Qingqing and this young man called Stone in front of him also knew it. It's a long time ago. It's something that happened 3 or 4 years ago. Stone rubbed the back of his head as he recalled. Then, he simply started from when he was young. It turned out that Stone was an orphan since young. When he had memories, he was in a desolate mountain deep in the spirit realm where all kinds of wild beasts and monsters roamed freely. He was raised by a black female ape. That black female ape treated Stone as her own. Stone drank the milk of hundreds of beasts when he was young. Thus, Stone's body was sturdy and he was extremely strong. One day, Stone accidentally found a village. It was a village that had lived in seclusion for thousands of years because of the war. They knew some basic cultivation techniques that could strengthen the body. An old man found Stone. At that time, Stone was like a wild beast. He couldn't speak and was afraid of humans. Later, under the guidance of the people in the village, Stone let down his guard and developed trust in them. He learned to speak and also learned the basic cultivation techniques. At the age of 10, he was able to fight tigers and leopards and capture giant pythons with his extraordinary strength. His peers in the same village couldn't be compared to him at all. Several years later, one day, Stone went hunting deep in the mountains. In order to chase a giant leopard, Stone fell into a canyon. However, by chance, he obtained a huge inheritance and a demon-slaying axe. Just 3 or 4 years ago, Stone was hunting when he encountered a fairy-like girl besieged by powerful monsters. He went forward to help, but in the end, he was defeated and was seriously injured. In the end, he was saved by that fairy-like girl. Later, that fairy-like girl said that my movement technique was clumsy and that I needed more practice. Therefore, she taught me this movement technique. After that, I never saw that fairy-like girl again. Stone said to Du Xiaofu in one breath. Could it be her? Du Xiaofu's eyes moved. From Stone's description, he felt that the fairy-like girl should be Dongli Qingqing without a doubt. However, 3 or 4 years ago, Dongli Qingqing appeared in the spirit realm. Right now, he didn't know where she was. Artifact Emperor, do you know that fairy-like girl? Why do you have that movement techniques chant? Stone asked curiously. He always thought that Artifact Emperor Qiao Feng and that fairy-like girl must be related. I'll tell you about this in the future. Keep in touch with the movement techniques chant that I taught you. However, you must remember not to pass it on to others. Du Xiaofu said to Stone. At this time, the fairy-like girl's figure appeared in his mind. Stone nodded and looked at Du Xiaofu. He said, Artifact Emperor, I heard from the disciples of Migre's palace that you are going to participate in some prodigy competition. I also want to join Migre's palace. I want to go with you. Is that okay? Why? Du Xiaofu stared blankly, then asked with a smile. You are my savior, and a person whose name resounds throughout the spirit realm. If I follow you, I will definitely become an expert in the future. I will become a great hero whose name resounds throughout the world. When I came out, I promised the uncles in the village and grandpa village chief that I will make a name for myself in the outside world. One day, I will become a great hero whose name resounds throughout the world. At that time, I will return. So, I must do it. Stone said seriously. That was his promise to the village. He could not disappoint the uncles in the village and grandpa village chief. Du Xiaofu looked at the young man in front of him with a smile in his eyes. He said, but only artifact symbol masters can join the Migre's palace. You are a cultivator. You cannot join the Migre's palace. Then what should I do? I want to follow you. I will do anything you ask me to, as long as I stay by your side. Stone looked at Du Xiaofu with expectation. At the 7 Palace Assembly, the young man in front of him shocked him and was also his savior. So, Stone felt that he must follow an expert like the Artifact Emperor Qiao Feng. In the future, he could also become someone like him. In the future, call me Third Young Master. You can temporarily follow me. However, I have a condition. If you can't do it, then don't follow me. Du Xiaofu said seriously to Stone. Only one condition. I can only follow you. 10 conditions. 100 conditions. Stone was instantly excited. To be able to follow the young man in front of him, let alone one condition, he would agree no matter how many conditions there were. Just one. In the future, if I ask you to do anything, you must listen to me. Do not doubt me. Du Xiaofu said. This Stone was simple and had extremely high talent. He was a rare unpolished jade. If he could carve it with a little guidance, he would definitely be outstanding in the future. And if there was a chance for Stone to join the world society, in less than 5 years, he would be able to control a region. Just this. Of course, there is no problem. Stone was slightly stunned. How was this a condition? He immediately nodded his head in a simple and honest manner. However, His eyes were clear and revealed some intelligence. The next morning, in the Migres palace, a group of 11 young men and women left on flying demon beasts. It was Du Xiaofu, Tao Yu, Yu Mingyuan, Stone and the others. This time, only the younger generation could enter the sealed ancient land. Bailey Su naturally could not follow and could only wait in the Migres palace. Originally, Elder Zhu Xiu and the others wanted to arrange for the experts of the Migres palace to send them off. According to the usual practice of the previous prodigy tournament, every time the Migres palace sent out a disciple, there would be experts escorting them along the way to avoid any accidents. In particular, Elder Zhu Xiu and the others knew that the fake Alioth palace master would not let the young master go so easily. They were even more worried. In order to persuade Elder Zhu Xiu and the others, Du Xiaofu spent a lot of effort. The prodigy tournament, the sealed ancient land, was located in the Divine Thunder Mountain Range near the border of the Spirit Domain. It was rumored that the Divine Thunder Mountain Range had been visited by top experts in the ancient times. There were traces left behind by the Divine Thunder that destroyed the world. For countless years, not even a blade of grass grew there. There were still traces of thunder and lightning. As the prodigy tournament approached, the entire central state was in an uproar. The young disciples of the major forces and the extraordinary disciples of the clans were all rushing to the Divine Thunder Mountain Range. The 9 great forces of the central state, the 1 valley, 2 religions, and the 3 sects and 3 schools peak younger generation also began to set off. For a time, the Divine Thunder Mountain Range was bustling with noise. Numerous figures flew through the air and arrived at the Divine Thunder Mountain Range. As soon as they stepped into the vast Divine Thunder Mountain Range, they could feel the excitement and shock. Today's update is complete. Today is also the Little New Year. Little Yu wishes everyone a happy Little New Year. Chapter 860. Densely packed figures covered the mountains. Most of them were young men and women. Although there were some elders and middle-aged men, they were all escorting disciples to the Divine Thunder Mountain Range. So many people. On the back of the flying beast, Stone looked down at the mountains below and the densely packed figures in the air. It was like a black mass of ants. He gasped. Du Xiaofu was also a little moved. In the vast mountain range, there were densely packed figures everywhere. That kind of visual impact was extremely shocking. In the mountain range, the auras were mixed and the noise was loud. Among them, there was no lack of king-level auras. In the entire middle state, almost all the extraordinary young people had gathered here and gathered in the Divine Thunder Mountain Range. This was a grand event for the entire middle state. Entering the sealed ancient land and eliminating the evil creatures was the responsibility and duty of the entire middle state. Everyone was duty-bound. However, the prodigy competition was a grand event for the entire middle state. It was a true grand event for the entire middle state. All the young people in middle state would participate. In the end, the prodigy competition would be known throughout middle state and the world would know about it. Looking at the densely packed people in the mountain range, Du Xiaofu could not help but feel a little moved. The blood in his body was boiling. Young master, the people from the other halls should be here soon. On the back of the flying beast, Tao Yu asked Du Xiaofu. Du Xiaofu said, they should be here already. They said they would gather at the 10th peak. The 7-star hall always gathers at the 10th peak. The first 9 peaks are occupied by the 1 valley, 2 religions, 3 sects, and 3 groups. Every time the prodigy competition is held, the 7-star hall will be at the 10th peak. Tao Yu said with some pride in his eyes. Before the sealed ancient land, there were a total of 10 peaks. On the top of the 10 peaks, other than the 1 valley, 2 religions, 3 sects, and 3 groups, only the 7-star hall could occupy the 10th peak. In the sky above the mountain range, many demonic beast mounts flew across the sky. Many powerful auras spread out, and their figures swept across the sky like a gale. The densely packed silhouettes had reached the front, and not many people were still in midair. The closer the space was to the front, the more crowded it was to the point where it was hard to find a foothold. Only the powerful cultivators from the large sects were able to move forward. The Divine Thunder mountain range was extremely vast. At the front was a vast plain. However, this plain was covered with black fog all year round. A terrifying aura spread out, making it impossible for people to get close. At the edge of the plains, there were 10 towering mountains. From the foot of the mountains to the waist of the mountains, there were densely packed figures, and the noise was monstrous. However, it was relatively quiet on the mountain peak. Only a few hundred figures were there. On the 6th mountain peak, hundreds of young men and women stood together. Every single one of them was a giant amongst men. As they stood quietly, the formless aura that they emitted made one's heart palpitate. In particular, the young men and women at the front were even more outstanding. If Du Xiaofu was here, he would definitely recognize many of them. The people on the 6th mountain peak were the people from the ancient heaven sect. Yin Machen, Mi Zixia, Guzong, Ji Aoming, Si Ruofeng, and the peak existences of the younger generation of the ancient heaven sect were all gathered here. Sima Muhan was also at the front, standing in front of Yin Machen, Si Ruofeng, Mi Zixia, and the others. Within her lively eyes, there was a faint purple glow that fluctuated with intelligence and charm. It was enough to be called a peerless beauty. At this moment, there was a woman beside Sima Muhan. She looked slightly older than Sima Muhan. This woman looked to be in her 20s. Her eyes were bright and spirited. Her eyebrows were slender, her nose was straight, and there were slight dimples on her cheeks. Her beauty was unparalleled. At this moment, the sunlight shone on this woman's face. Her skin was even more sparkling and translucent. She was as gentle as jade, and there was a faint ocean-like blue brilliance in her eyes. This was also a peerless beauty. Standing beside Sima Muhan, she didn't seem to dim at all. It couldn't cover the brilliance of her temperament. This woman was less cute than Sima Muhan, but more elegant and noble. She was untainted by dust. They all seemed to have arrived. Beside the elegant man and woman, there was a young man. Although this young man couldn't be said to be as handsome as Mi Zixia and Yin Machen, his face was sharp and angular. He had a head of thick black hair, and a pair of eyes under a pair of sword-like eyebrows that were dark and deep. His temperament was somewhat wild and unrestrained, and the corner of his mouth held a wanton and unrestrained smile. It's said that this time, there are quite a few people in those few sects with extraordinary cultivation and extremely high talent. The elegant woman said softly. Her voice was as gentle as water, like the sound of nature. Standing there, she was dignified and noble, like a budding lotus flower that was untainted by dust. In the end, we will know who is the strongest. The wild young man smiled. The wanton and unrestrained smile at the corner of his mouth became deeper and deeper. The noble and elegant woman smiled, then slightly glanced to the side. Her blue eyes contained a faint smile as she looked at Sima Muhan. Her pearly white teeth lightly opened as she said, "Sima Muhan, you haven't been normal recently. What's wrong?" Hearing this, Sima Muhan smiled. Her cherry lips were smeared with a light pink color like honey, and her silky black hair casually fluttered around her slender waist. She said softly, "Senior Sister Shui Han, I was just thinking that if that annoying guy was also here, I'm afraid that our ancient heaven sect would have a higher chance of winning this time." "That guy, is he that brat called Du Xiaofu? I originally wanted to spar with him, but who knew?" the wild young man sighed. "Senior brother Lin Ling, you might not be able to do anything to him." Sima Muhan looked at the wild young man and smiled. Her eyes were filled with expectation as she said, "However, Grandmaster Qin Yang said that there was an unforeseen event in the Stone City. Perhaps that guy is not dead. I heard that guy is extremely ferocious. To be able to defeat Junior Sister Muhan, I really don't have the confidence to win." If there is a chance, I would like to spar with him and see just how ferocious and powerful that guy is. The wild young man laughed. You guys have to be prepared. This time, the ancient heaven sect will rely on you. In front of the mountain peak, a thin and slender old man in his 70s turned around. He was wearing a green and white robe. The old man had an ancient sword on his back. His white hair fluttered in the wind, and a few strands of white hair fluttered along with a white beard. He had an extraordinary temperament, as if an immortal had descended to the world. Yes, Elder Qin Yang. The group of ancient heaven sect disciples nodded in response. Their eyes were filled with respect and anticipation. Grandmaster Qin Yang, is that guy really not dead? Sima Muhan stepped forward and asked Elder Gu Qinyang. She always felt that Grandmaster Qin Yang knew something that he was not telling her. Little girl, when the time comes, you have to protect yourself inside. There are some things that you will know in the future. Elder Gu Qinyang instructed Sima Muhan. On his old but extremely ruddy face, his eyes were abnormally clear. Yes. Sima Muhan nodded. The more she thought about it, the more she felt that some unexpected miracle must have happened to that guy. From the attitude of her father and Grandmaster Qin Yang, it was obvious that that guy was most likely not dead. Bang, 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 not far away, a deep sonic boom could be heard. The commotion was not small, and it was accompanied by the faint roar of a beast. On the mountain peak, Sima Muhan and the others looked over. It was the commotion coming from the 10th peak. It's the commotion on the 10th peak. It seems that the people of the 7-star hall and the people of the Divine Light Court are fighting. On the mountain peak, Elder Hu Sankuan looked at the commotion on the 10th peak and said. After the marriage alliance between the Divine Light Court and the Great Will sect, they have become much more arrogant. It seems that they want to compete with the 7-star hall. Elder Yanmingza said. Elder Kong Zhonglei said, it is said that the inheritance of the Divine Light Court's light ancestor has been obtained by a disciple called Qing Xingnan. I think the light ancestor was quite a character back then. The 7-star hall is not to be trifled with. Let them fight. Elder Gu Qingyang said softly. Then, he stood quietly with his hands behind his back like an immortal, making people respect him. The deeper they went into the vast mountain range, the more people there were. The densely packed figures covered the mountains. From time to time, there would be some fights caused by disputes. Chapter 861. If some people wanted to move forward, it would naturally cause the experts in front to be unhappy. It was normal for them to fight. Fortunately, everyone knew what was going on, so they didn't go to war. There were only some small conflicts. Du Xiaofu looked down from the flying demonic beast, and he could hear the sounds of quarreling and fighting. He pondered in his heart. He was afraid that in addition to purging the evil creatures in the sealed ancient land, there would also be a fierce struggle between giants. The 10th peak is just ahead. I believe the people from the other halls have already arrived. Let's go and meet up with them first. Tao Yu said to Du Xiaofu. When he arrived, he looked at the countless figures in the mountains with a solemn expression. He could sense quite a number of powerful auras in the vicinity. Among the densely packed figures, there were quite a number of extremely terrifying experts hidden. Alright, let's meet up with the people from the other halls first. Du Xiaofu nodded. Now that the Divine Thunder Mountain range was filled with all kinds of experts and forces, it was better to meet up with the people from the other halls first. After a while, 10 towering peaks appeared in the mountain range ahead. They were exceptionally tall and majestic. The peaks were barren and there was a faint aura of thunder and lightning in the air. From the foot of the mountain to the middle of the mountain, there was a densely packed crowd. On the 10th peak, the crowd was in an uproar. There were faint traces of energy in the air, as if there were powerful experts fighting just now. Young Hall Master, there seems to be something wrong below. It's the people from the 7-star hall. Looking down, Tao Yu's expression turned solemn. He could feel the unusual uproar from the crowd on the 10th peak. Du Xiaofu's expression was already solemn. With his mind, he could feel the traces of fighting just now. Tao Yu said that the 10th peak had always been occupied by the 7-star hall. Now that there were traces of fighting on the 10th peak, it must be related to the 7-star hall. Below are Lin Weiqi, Dong Lijiao, Yu Bai and the others, Yu Mingyuan said. He saw Lin Weiqi from the Alpha Hall, Dong Lijiao from the Mizar Hall, Yu Bai from the Alpha Hall and the others from the Alpha Hall. Whoosh whoosh, Du Xiaofu's figure jumped down from the back of the flying demon beast and landed on the mountainside. At this moment, there were hundreds of figures on the mountainside. Judging from the badges on their shoulders, they were undoubtedly members of the 7-star hall. At the front of the crowd were the outstanding Lin Weiqi, Dong Lijiao, Yu Bai, Wu Ma Sheng, and Sun Wu. There were also Elder Yin Xuanlang, Elder Yun Ziqin, Elder Cui Fu, Elder Yao Xing, Elder Cloud Leopard, and other experts from the 7-star hall. Du Xiaofu's silhouette landed on the ground, looking at Lin Weiqi, Dong Lijiao, Elder Yao Xing, Elder Cloud Leopard, and the others. At this moment, regardless of whether it was Elder Yao Xing or Elder Cloud Leopard, all the experts of the 7-star hall had pale faces and serious injuries. Elder Cloud Leopard of Mizar Hall and Elder Yao Xing of Alcate Hall. Blood seeped out from the corner of his mouth. His injuries were the most serious. Elders, what's wrong with you all? Du Xiaofu looked at Elder Cloud Leopard and the others with a puzzled expression. Someone who could injure Elder Cloud Leopard and Elder Yao Xing was definitely not ordinary. Swoosh, swoosh, as Du Xiaofu's voice fell, Shi Tu, Tao Yu, and the others also landed on the back of the flying beast. Looking at the injured Elder Cloud Leopard and the others, they were also puzzled. You're here. Elder Cloud Leopard looked at Du Xiaofu with a miserable expression. He must have just fought with someone and was injured. He smiled bitterly at Du Xiaofu and said, "We're not strong enough. We just suffered a little loss and also caused the 7-star hall to lose face. I'm afraid the 7-star hall won't be able to get back this time. Elders, what's going on?" Du Xiaofu was stunned as he looked at the hundreds of people in front of him. Other than some of the cultivators from the 7 palaces, the other young disciples were also injured. Those who were weaker seemed to have been affected by the shockwaves, and some of them were seriously injured. Sigh. Elder Yao Xing smiled bitterly inside. The 10th peak has always been where the 7-star hall is, but this time it was taken away by the people of the Divine Light Court. They have many experts with them this time, and they even have venerable level experts as escorts. We can't beat them even if we work together. The people of the Divine Light Court attacked you, elders. Du Xiaofu trembled. The words, Divine Light Court, made Du Xiaofu feel extremely complicated. He had a lot of grievances with the people of the Divine Light Court back then. At this moment, when he heard about the Divine Light Court, Du Xiaofu couldn't help but think of the woman who was already engaged. However, this thought only flashed in his mind for a moment. This time the Divine Light Court has venerable level experts and many other experts. We were directly swept down by them. Many disciples were affected and I'm afraid they won't be able to enter the sealed ancient land, Elder Yin Xuanlang said. Elder Yin Xuanlang's eyes were filled with anger. He said unwillingly, the Divine Light Court is really bold this time. When the time comes, the 7 Stars Hall will never let the Divine Light Court off. Xiao Feng. Lin Weiqi walked in front of Du Xiaofu. Her red dress was like fire. She looked at Du Xiaofu and said, "This time we came here because the Supreme Elder said that we will listen to you. You will also be our leader in the sealed ancient land. All of us will listen to you." Du Xiaofu was stunned. He looked at the hundreds of young men and women in front of him. Although he knew that he had won the 7-Star Hall Conference and would be leading the people of the 7-Star Hall into the sealed ancient land, he still didn't know what to do. But at this time, facing hundreds of outstanding young people of the 7-Star Hall, his heart was still a little shaken. The Grand Elders of the Mizar Hall have also said that during this trip, no matter if it is inside or outside the sealed ancient lands, we will listen to you. Dong Lijiao also stepped forward and stood in front of Du Xiaofu. He asked, "What do you think about this matter? You young guys, the most important thing now is to enter the sealed ancient land to obtain opportunities and fight for a ranking." Elder Chui Fu looked at Lin Weiqi, Dong Lijiao, and the other angry young people and said, "We will naturally deal with this matter. The Divine Light Court has more experts than us now. We can't do anything about it. We will talk about it when the time comes. In short, the 7-star hall will make the Divine Light Court pay the price. Humph, after entering the sealed ancient land, I will not let those people from the Divine Light Court go." Dong Lijiao said angrily. He couldn't do anything to the experts of the Divine Light Court outside, but when the time came, the experts of the Divine Light Court would not be able to enter the sealed ancient land. Dong Lijiao was not afraid of the young people of the Divine Light Court. He would deal with them one by one. "Young Hall Master, when the time comes, I will leave the sealed ancient land to you." Elder Yun Ziqin said to Du Xiaofu. "Elder Yun, you are too polite. Just call me Qiao Feng. I am not worthy of the title of Young Hall Master." Du Xiaofu cupped his hands. He was the Young Hall Master of the Migres Hall, but only in the Migres Hall. These elders were all experts of the various halls and were much older than him. Although his identity was special, he could not be rude. Elder Yun Ziqin smiled and looked at Du Xiaofu. "Young Hall Master, you probably don't know yet. We have all received the news from the Hall Master. From now on, the 7-star hall will be one. The Chief Hall Master will be Senior Quang Zun, but the Young Hall Master will be you. After the Genius Tournament, the news will be announced to the public. Therefore, from now on, Young Hall Master will be the Young Hall Master of the 7 halls. 7 halls into one." Du Xiaofu was stunned when he heard this. He did not expect his eldest uncle and second uncle to make such a decision. "Therefore, you will be in charge of everything." Lin Weiqi looked at Du Xiaofu and frowned. "In the sealed ancient land, we need to regain our face in the hands of the Divine Light Court. Otherwise, the 7-star hall will become the laughingstock of the central prefecture. You are the Young Hall Master of the 7-star hall and must be responsible for the 7-star hall. Otherwise, I will not listen to you even with the Hall Master's orders." "Motherfucker. Those bastards. We'll deal with them once we're in the sealed ancient land. We'll let the Divine Light Court know that our 7 stars palace is not to be trifled with," Sun Tian cursed. Fury was rising in his heart. "Of course we can't let them go. We will deal with them first." Yu Bai also cursed. "If the Supreme Elders of our hall come, the Divine Light Court will not have a place to be so arrogant. Then we will deal with the disciples of the Divine Light Court inside. We will not let a single one of them go." Hearing Lin Weiqi's words, the crowd was in an uproar. All the young disciples were furious. They hadn't even entered the Heaven's Pride competition yet, but they had already suffered such a blow. They were all young and full of vigor. Naturally, they were unhappy and angry. Although the 7 Stars Hall usually did things their own way, once they encountered an external enemy, they would always work together to deal with them. Chapter 862. Elders, are you all right? Du Xiaofu glanced at the excited disciples and smiled bitterly. He then looked at Elder Cloud Leopard and Elder Yao Xing and asked. He could tell that Elder Cloud Leopard and Elder Yao Xing were the most severely injured. Little Xingxing seemed to have rushed out from Du Xiaofu's arms to see what was going on. He poked his little head out of Du Xiaofu's arms and looked curiously at Elder Yao Xing and Elder Cloud Leopard with his golden eyes. "We're fine. The Divine Light Court wouldn't dare to do anything to the 7-Star Hall." Elder Yao Xing said to Du Xiaofu. His strength was enough to deal with any Emperor-level experts, but he couldn't do anything to the many experts of the Divine Light Court and the extraordinary Venerable Level experts. However, at this moment, Elder Cloud Leopard looked at little Xingxing in Du Xiaofu's arms and frowned slightly. He looked very puzzled. The invisible aura on that little head made him tremble for no reason. That's good. Du Xiaofu nodded when he heard that Elder Yao Xing and Elder Cloud Leopard were fine. He then looked at the mountain peak and said, "Are the people of the Divine Light Court up there now?" "Young Hall Master, what are you doing?" Hearing this, Elder Chui Fu's rather old face was slightly stunned. This mountain has always been the territory of the Seven-Star Hall. If this is the case, I'm afraid that the Seven-Star Hall won't be able to regain our reputation. Even if we kill all the disciples of the Divine Light Court inside, it won't have much effect. Du Xiaofu smiled helplessly. They had lost face in front of the entire Central Plains. Even if they could kill all the disciples of the Divine Light Court in the sealed ancient land, it wouldn't have much effect on regaining the reputation of the Seven-Star Hall. At this moment, as the young Hall Master of the Seven-Star Hall, even if he was only the young Hall Master of the Migres Palace, Du Xiaofu knew that he had to do something. After all, he could not disgrace his master, the revered Equipment Master. Hearing Du Xiaofu's words, the excited crowd quieted down and looked at Du Xiaofu in surprise. "Young Lord, there are many experts from the Divine Light Court. With our current strength, we really can't contend with those people from the Divine Light Court." Elder Yun Ziqin said to Du Xiaofu. "Elder Yun is right. Now is not the time to seek revenge on the Divine Light Court." Lin Weiqi looked at Du Xiaofu. Although she wanted to take revenge and regain the dignity of the Seven-Star Hall, she didn't want to. She also knew very well that the top experts of the Seven-Star Hall had not come at this time, so she couldn't gain any advantage from the Divine Light Court. No matter what, we can't just let it go. If we really can't, we can't let the people from the Divine Light Court stay up there, even if we have to destroy the 10th peak. Du Xiaofu's indifferent voice was heard, and there was a trace of coldness in his eyes under the mask. Hearing Du Xiaofu's words, his seemingly indifferent voice made the blood of the disciples of the Seven-Star Hall boil, and they were all extremely excited. Let's go up the mountain," Du Xiaofu said softly. There was some helplessness in his eyes, but more than that, there was a trace of coldness. Du Xiaofu's first goal in entering the ancient sealed land this time was naturally to obtain the Yin Spirit Crystal for his master, the revered Equipment Master. Secondly, he wanted to compete with his peers in the Middle Continent and have the opportunity to obtain that great opportunity to take another step on his path to becoming an expert. Therefore, Du Xiaofu had never thought of complicating matters, but now that this matter had come knocking on his door, there was no way to avoid it. The Divine Light Court had forcefully seized the 10th peak in front of the entire Middle Continent, and swept away the disciples and elders of the Seven-Star Hall. This was undoubtedly a slap to the Seven-Star Hall's face. If the Seven-Star Hall did not take revenge on them, they would definitely become the laughing stock of the entire Middle Continent, no matter what the Seven-Star Hall did in the future. Du Xiaofu did not care about the fact that the Seven-Star Hall had merged into one, and that he was the young Hall Master of the Seven-Star Hall. It was just that his master, the revered Equipment Master, was one of the 7 Hall Masters of the Seven-Star Hall. The fact that the Seven-Star Hall had been slapped in the face this time was absolutely a matter of principle. Sometimes, a sect also needed to endure a little. This kind of matter, even if it was 1 valley, 2 schools, 3 sects and 3 schools, they could not avoid. However, such a slap in the face was the bottom line of the Seven-Star Hall. If they showed weakness in front of the entire Middle Continent this time, the reputation of the Seven-Star Hall would definitely be greatly damaged in the future. Even his master, the revered Equipment Master, Quang Zun, and second senior fairy Yu would also be greatly disgraced. His master was the Hall Master of the Migres Hall, the revered Equipment Master, Quang Zun, and second senior fairy Yu had already intended to merge the Seven-Star Hall into one. Du Xiaofu knew that whether he was the young Hall Master of the Migres Hall, or the young hall master of the entire 7-star hall, even if he was only the disciple of the revered equipment master, he still had a responsibility and obligation to protect the 7-star hall, and protect the reputation of his master, the revered equipment master. This time, Du Xiaofu also knew that he was the leader of the 7-star hall. This was a test and trust for him. If he let this matter go, how would he be able to face the disciples of the 7-star hall in the future? Moreover, compared to that clan, the Divine Light Court was really too weak. If he did not even dare to do anything in the face of the Divine Light Court today, then how would he be able to contend against that clan in the future? Go up the mountain and take revenge. Even if we destroy this place, we can't let the Divine Light Court get it. The group of disciples of the 7-star hall immediately went up the mountain excitedly, including many disciples of the Yuheng Hall. Du Xiaofu's action, in the face of the experts of the Divine Light Court, was still fearless and did not retreat. Without a doubt, he immediately won the favor and support of all the disciples of the 7-star hall present. In addition, most of these disciples had seen the strength of the young hall master in front of them at the 7-hall competition. Therefore, at this moment, his extraordinary strength, coupled with his fearless courage and temper for the 7-star hall, won the approval of all the disciples of the 7-star hall, and won the hearts of most people for Du Xiaofu. These disciples of the 7-star hall, who were able to participate in the Heaven's Pride tournament, were naturally not weak. If any of these disciples of the 7 Stars Palace were to go out alone, they would all be dragons and phoenixes among men. They all had the capital to be proud of themselves. Moreover, they were disciples from different palaces. It was not an easy thing to get all of them to agree on one person. Strength alone absolutely could not make everyone approve of him. However, Du Xiaofu at this moment, under such an opportunity, did it. These young disciples were all young and full of vigor, and they naturally did not feel good about being humiliated in the 7-star hall. If it were not for the elders stopping them, even if they knew that they were no match for him, they would have rushed up long ago. The disciples of the 7-star hall were not inferior to the disciples of the Divine Light Court. Seeing Du Xiaofu's reaction, the elders of the 7-star hall were also stunned and hesitated for a moment. Seeing that the young and full of vigor had already rushed up, they could only feel helpless. Damn it, let's fight. If we don't get back at him, I'm afraid we won't be able to show our faces in the future. Elder Yao Xing wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, rolled up his sleeves, and followed. The younger generation was not afraid, so what was there to be afraid of? In the beginning, if it were not for the sake of protecting the younger generation, Elder Yao Xing would not have retreated so easily. Although the venerable level expert of the Divine Light Court was powerful, he was also not to be trifled with if he really went all out. Let's go, we'll fight it out. Elder Cloud Leopard's temper was not inferior to Elder Yao Xing's, and he immediately followed Elder Yao Xing. Elder Yun Ziqin, Elder Cui Fu, Elder Yin Xuanlang and the others looked at each other, and their eyes flashed as they followed. Seeing the group of disciples of the 7-star hall rush up the mountain in excitement, they immediately attracted the attention of many people on the mountainside. The 7-star hall and the Divine Light Court just fought a big battle, and the 7-star hall was defeated. It seems that they are going to get back at them. The Divine Light Court has recently formed a marriage alliance with the Great Luan sect, and it seems that they have become much more domineering. Didn't the 7-star hall just lose? Did another expert come to support them? You don't know, right? The person who just came is the Weapon Emperor, Qiao Feng. He is the disciple of the Weapon Sovereign, and also the champion of the 7-star hall conference. He's just a junior. Can he compete with the experts of the Divine Light Court? It seems that there will be a show to watch. There were waves of whispers, and many people immediately crowded up the mountain, planning to take the opportunity to watch the show. Although the 7-star hall and the Divine Light Court were not as powerful as the One Valley and Two sects, they were still powerful existences second only to the One Valley and Two sects. At this time, the two mountain sects were fighting, and not many people wanted to miss such a show. Above the mountain, clouds and mist were drifting, and looking down at the sky, one's vision was wide. At this moment, the 10th mountain was occupied by hundreds of people, who were looking at the vast plain in front of them, surrounded by black mist, as if they were waiting for something. In front of these hundreds of people, there were many experts standing. There were also a few young men and a beautiful woman in orange clothes, who stood out among the hundreds of extraordinary young men and women. Suddenly, there was a lot of noise at the foot of the mountain. Some disciples looked back at the foot of the mountain and saw many figures flashing from the foot of the mountain, and they seemed to have bad intentions. It seems to be the people from the 7-star hall, they are back. Some people recognized that many of the figures were the disciples of the 7-star hall, and they immediately frowned, while others sneered and looked at them with disdain. Those guys who are not afraid of death are here again, don't tell me they want to be tortured. In front of the crowd, there were several outstanding young men, and there was a young man in luxurious clothes. He was wearing a light gray cloak embroidered with lightning patterns, which flashed brilliantly, as if it was real. The beautiful woman in orange clothes did not have any fluctuations in her eyes, but she looked at the black mist in front of her, as if she was sizing something up. Go and see what's going on. In front of the crowd, there was an old man in a loose purple robe, who looked to be in his 70s. He frowned slightly and said to the several old men and burly men beside him, "I'll go and see." An old man walked out and was about to dash down to see what was going on. Xiao Feng of the 7-star hall challenges the Divine Light Court. Does the Divine Light Court dare to accept the challenge? However, at the same time, there was a faint voice at the foot of the mountain, like a sudden clap of thunder, resounding through the clouds and echoing in the mountains. Chapter 863. Their voices reverberated through the mountain range. Many people in the dense crowd immediately raised their heads to look at the mountain before them. Quite a number of gazes from the surrounding 9 mountain peaks immediately shot towards the 10th peak in unison under this clamor. Wisps of powerful, obscure auras from the surrounding 9 peaks immediately peaked at the 10th peak. As his voice fell, many figures flew up from the bottom of the mountain and landed on the top of the mountain. The first person was a young man with long black hair tied behind his head. He carried a mysterious square box on his back and wore purple soft armor. Purple flames could be seen in his eyes under the purple mask. Numerous gazes filled with curiosity and disdain landed on Du Xiaofu's body one after another as they sized him up. The few outstanding young men also cast their gazes over. The orange-clothed lady turned her head. At this moment, her gaze also landed on the purple-armored young man. Immediately, her heart faintly trembled. She felt a sense of familiarity from the young man. It was as if she had met him before. Swoosh swoosh, Dong Lijiao, Lin Wei Qi, Shi Tu, Tao Yu, Sun Wu, Elder Yao Xing, Elder Cloud Leopard, and the others landed behind Du Xiaofu. Du Xiaofu's gaze swept across the crowd, and when his gaze finally landed on the woman in orange, his eyes trembled and his heart rippled with waves. The tall lady was the first princess of the Stone Dragon Empire, Qing Xingnan. When he was breaking through to the martial emperor stage, he accidentally saw her getting engaged. She and the holy son of the Great Will sect were like a golden couple. We are strangers now, Du Xiaofu thought to himself. He looked at the lady and calmed himself down. He suppressed the emotions in his heart. At that moment, Du Xiaofu realized that 3 figures appeared in his mind. The first one was the fairy-like lady. Then, it was Qi Yi Shi. Finally, the tomboy appeared in his mind. The lady in front of him gradually disappeared. The 3 beautiful figures filled his heart, causing his heart to no longer waver. Are the people of the 7-star hall here to be tortured? An old man walked out from the Divine Light Court and glanced disdainfully at Elder Yao Xing, Elder Cloud Leopard, and the others. He then looked at Du Xiaofu with a cold smile and said, "Ignorant junior, you'd better go back to the 7 Stars Hall and cultivate for a few more years before coming back." Du Xiaofu looked at the old man and coldness flashed in his eyes. How could Du Xiaofu forget this old man? After Du Xiaofu killed Du Xiaofu, it was this old man who wanted to attack Du Xiaofu. In the end, Gu Qingyang of the Ancient Heaven sect arrived. He was so frightened that he did not dare to move. When Du Xiaofu saw that the old man's aura was only at the peak of the mystical martial emperor realm, he felt a chill in his heart. It would not be difficult for him to kill this person now. Qiao Feng of the Seven-Star Hall wants to challenge the Divine Light Court. The Divine Light Court dares to take the place of the Seven-Star Hall. Do they only rely on their numbers? They don't even dare to challenge us in front of the entire central continent. It seems that the Divine Light Court is nothing more than this. Du Xiaofu's indifferent voice was mixed with profound qi and resounded throughout the mountain range. Although Du Xiaofu wanted to kill the old man in front of him to take revenge, he knew that it was not the right time to do so. Lin Weiqi, Dong Lijiao, Sun Chang, and the other disciples of the Seven-Star Hall stood behind Du Xiaofu and looked at the young lord in front of them. His black hair fluttered behind his head, and his aura was domineering and arrogant. He was still fearless in the face of the Divine Light Court. Behind the mountain peak, countless gazes and auras swept over and gathered on the mountain peak. The voice mixed with profound qi was loud enough for countless people in the mountain range to hear it clearly. Kid, you want to challenge us? Do you think the Divine Light Court? The old man sneered and his voice was cold. However, before the old man finished speaking, Du Xiaofu directly interrupted him. He looked straight at an old man who looked to be in his 70s and was dressed in a wide purple robe. His voice was still mixed with profound qi as he said, "The Divine Light Court has a martial venerable. Don't tell me that they don't dare to accept the challenge. No one in the younger generation of the Divine Light Court dares to accept the challenge and is willing to hide like a coward. Then why don't they send a martial venerable and send me away?" With the sharp and vigorous power of his primordial spirit, Du Xiaofu could easily sense that the old man in the wide purple robe was the only martial venerable expert in the Divine Light Court. A martial venerable was an existence that surpassed the martial emperor realm. There were not many experts of that level in the entire central region. As Du Xiaofu's voice fell, there was an uproar in the mountain range. Is the Seven-Star Hall's Qiao Feng going to challenge a martial venerable expert of the Divine Light Court? The Qiao Feng is not ordinary, but I'm afraid he can't challenge a martial venerable expert. I'm afraid the martial venerable of the Divine Light Court won't fight. Even if he wins, it won't be honorable. It seems that the Divine Light Court and the Seven-Star Hall have already formed a feud. Whispers broke out around the mountain. The feud between the Seven-Star Hall and the Divine Light Court was enough to arouse everyone's interest. However, there were also people who understood that the Qiao Feng was of the younger generation after all. The Divine Light Court status was extraordinary. Even if he defeated the Qiao Feng, it wouldn't be honorable. If he fought, it would prove that he was bullying the young, and it would make the Divine Light Court lose all face. Qiao Feng of the Seven-Star Hall is smart. The martial venerable of the Divine Light Court won't dare to fight. It seems that the rumors are true. This time, there is indeed a troublesome person in the Seven-Star Hall. On the peak of the 9th mountain, hundreds of people were looking at the 10th mountain. A delicate and beautiful woman looked ahead with a faint smile. Senior Sister Zhu Shui, do you think Qiao Feng of the Seven-Star Hall is more powerful, or Qing Xingnan of the Divine Light Court? There was a purple-robed young man beside the beautiful lady. He asked curiously. What is it? The lineup on this mountain was from the Profound Talisman sect, one of the 3 sects and 3 factions. The beautiful man and woman were Zhu Shui. At this moment, she was the adopted daughter of the Profound Talisman sect's master. The Profound Talisman sect's master had never married and had no children. Therefore, Zhu Shui's status in the Profound Talisman sect was even higher. In addition to her awakened spiritual root, her cultivation and strength were already superior to those of the same generation in the Profound Talisman sect. Cheng Shengnan of the Divine Light Court has obtained the inheritance of the Divine Light Ancestor. Naturally, he is very powerful. However, it is rumored that Xiao Feng cultivates both martial arts and talismans. During the Seven-Star Hall's assembly, he has already killed a martial emperor. He is definitely not weak. Zhu Shui said softly. She looked at the mountain in front and murmured, "There are many human kings and human sovereigns in this heavenly pride battle. There are countless experts. If he is here, he will definitely shine and compete with those of the same generation in the central state." Senior sister Zhu Shui, what are you talking about? Hearing Zhu Shui's soft murmur, the purple-robed man asked. The purple-robed young man was Guoming. Although his talent was not as good as Zhu Shui's, his cultivation and strength had improved tremendously under the care of the Profound Talisman sect and Zhu Shui. He was definitely famous among those of the same generation in the Profound Talisman sect. I didn't say anything. The sealed ancient land has not opened yet. It's good to watch the show first. Zhu Shui smiled beautifully. Her beautiful eyes continued to fall on the 10th peak. That Xiao Feng is cunning and clever. I'm afraid that Leizun of the Divine Light Court won't be able to lower himself to attack him. On the 6th peak, Elder Qiao Mingze smiled and looked at the 10th peak with great interest. The Divine Light Court is not a good organization. Elder Gu Qingyang said. He was a little unhappy when he mentioned the Divine Light Court. Back then, his precious disciple had been surrounded and killed by the people of the Divine Light Court. He did not have the slightest good impression of the Divine Light Court. Kid, you don't have to talk nonsense in front of me. I didn't want to lower myself to your level, but since you want to continue to pester me, I'll fulfill your wish. The purple-robed elder was a true venerable level expert who had come to escort the disciples of the Divine Light Court. He glanced at Du Xiaofu indifferently. There was no fluctuation in his voice at all. There was a faint coldness in his indifferent voice. Then, he looked at the extraordinary young man and the orange-robed woman behind him and said, "Which one of you will go and finish him off?" "Elder, I'll go and teach that arrogant kid a lesson." As the old man's voice fell, among the several outstanding youths, a young man in luxurious clothes walked out with a somewhat arrogant attitude beside the orange-robed woman. This young man was wearing a light gray cloak embroidered with lightning patterns. It flashed brilliantly, as if it was real. This young man was extraordinary. He had an extraordinary temperament and a vigorous aura. "Xiao Hui, I'll let you go. Don't embarrass the Divine Light Court. If you win, I'll remember your merit." The Venerable from the Divine Light Court said to the young man called Xiao Hui. He seemed to be quite confident in his strength. "Thank you, Elder." Xiao Hui was elated when he heard this. It was an opportunity to gain the favor of Elder Ren Lei. As soon as he finished speaking, Xiao Hui walked out from the crowd. His aura fluctuated slowly as he looked straight at Du Xiaofu. It seems that someone from the Divine Light Court finally dares to accept the challenge. However, let's raise the stakes for this battle. If I lose, the Seven-Star Hall will never set foot on this mountain. From then on, you will have to avoid the disciples of the Divine Light Court when you see them. Chapter 864. There was a faint smile in Du Xiaofu's eyes as he glanced at Xiao Hui. Then, he did not even look at Xiao Hui as he looked straight at the honored warrior. His voice still resounded throughout the mountains as he said loudly, "However, if the Divine Light Court loses, make way for the Seven Stars Hall. The Divine Light Court is not qualified to enter the 10th peak. So that's what the young Hall Master is thinking. I thought he was going to fight to the death." Behind Du Xiaofu, Elder Yun Ziqin heaved a sigh of relief and smiled faintly. At first, Elder Yun Ziqin thought that the young Hall Master was young and impulsive and wanted to find the Venerables to fight. It was only now that Elder Yun Ziqin realized that the young lord in front of her had already made up his mind. The moment he opened his mouth, he had already forced the Divine Light Court to follow him. Not only was he ferocious and powerful, he was also extraordinarily intelligent. No wonder the Lord of the Divine Light Court had said that everyone in the sealed ancient land had to listen to the young lord's arrangements. The young Hall Master is really cunning. At this moment, Elder Cloud Leopard, Elder Yao Xing, and the others could see through Du Xiaofu's plan. They all praised him secretly. Lin Weiqi, Dong Lijiao, and the other young talents of the Seven-Star Hall looked at each other secretly and understood. Everyone guessed correctly. Du Xiaofu had the same idea from the beginning. Although Du Xiaofu knew that his strength had increased greatly recently, Du Xiaofu would not be so arrogant to fight with the Venerables. Du Xiaofu knew very well that as long as the Venerables did not fight, he would not lose even if he faced a peak martial emperor. After all, he could not use the dragon puppet in the sealed ancient land. However, he could still use the dragon puppet in the Divine Thunder Mountain. Xiao Hui of the Divine Light Court was stunned when he heard Du Xiaofu's words. Although he was not afraid of Qiao Feng, he could not make the decision. He paused slightly and looked at Ren Lei the Venerable. Lei Zuan's face was calm, but there was a trace of coldness in his eyes. He nodded at Xiao Hui as if he was hinting at something. Seeing Elder Ren Lei nod his head, Xiao Hui's eyes flashed with coldness and viciousness. After nodding to Elder Ren Lei, he took a step forward. The lady in orange-red clothes looked at the young man in purple Hall Master's robe. There was some doubt in her eyes, Xiao Xian, and she frowned. Is it going to battle? Weapon Emperor Qiao Feng and Xiao Hui of the Divine Light Court. Xiao Hui is the Martial Emperor Martial, Shaoan Xiao Hui is the Martial Emperor Martial Emperor. I think so. If Cheng Xingnan had not received the inheritance of the old ancestor of the Divine Light Court, Xiao Hui could be the leader of the younger generation of the Divine Light Court. As the Divine Light Court accepted the challenge, the people in the surrounding mountains, who were waiting for the sealed ancient land to open, suddenly became noisy. Many hoarse cheers could be heard from the ant-like crowd. Kid, stop trying to act mysterious. I'll fulfill your wish today. If you can defeat me, I'll give you the 10th peak. However, you'll never have the chance to do so. You'll regret meeting me today. Xiao Hui walked towards Du Xiaofu with a sinister look. Finally, he stopped a few feet away from Du Xiaofu and said, I can give you a chance. As long as you kowtow to me 3 times, I can let you go. Looking at Xiao Hui in front of him, Du Xiaofu's eyes under the mask smiled faintly. However, his smile sent chills down one's spine. He said indifferently, you only dare to come up after such a long time. The disciples of the Divine Light Court seem to be a bunch of cowards who only know how to bark. Kid, I want you to die today. Hearing Du Xiaofu's words, Xiao Hui's face instantly turned sinister. Du Xiaofu did not take him seriously at all. In the Divine Light Court, he was one of the best among his peers. He had always been able to obtain the best cultivation resources. However, now, Cheng Xingnan, who came from a small country, had not only obtained the inheritance of the Divine Light Ancestor and obtained a unique status among his peers, but he had also taken away the cultivation resources that originally belonged to him. In addition, Cheng Xingnan was now engaged to the Saint of the Great Will sect. He had become the center of attention of his peers in the Middle State. Xiao Hui was also suppressed in the Divine Light Court. He could not accept this psychological change. Today, as long as he defeated Qiao Feng, he would be able to shine in front of the entire Middle State. When he returned to the Divine Light Court, although he would not be able to take away Cheng Xingnan's position, his status would at least rise again. However, at this moment, Qiao Feng did not take him seriously at all. Xiao Hui's eyes were filled with murderous intent. I'm afraid you don't have the ability. Looking at Xiao Hui's murderous gaze, Du Xiaofu's eyes were filled with contempt and mockery. Looking at Du Xiaofu's mocking gaze, Xiao Hui's eyes became even more sinister. A murderous aura surged and a gust of qi burst out from his body like a dazzling light. The light was so dazzling that it soared into the sky like a tornado. Boom! This aura was so strong that it surpassed the martial king realm. It was the peak of the martial emperor realm and was the closest to the martial emperor realm. The terrifying aura swept out, faintly carrying the aura of lightning. The strength of this aura alone was enough to contend with an ordinary martial emperor realm expert. As a human king, Xiao Hui had many trump cards and was very talented. Ordinary martial royal realm cultivators in the outside world would not be able to take advantage of him. What a powerful aura! Feeling the undisguised aura on Xiao Hui's body, many people exclaimed from the surrounding mountains. Xiao Hui was indeed extraordinary. Some people were also shocked by the Divine Light Court. This time, the Divine Light Court had produced many extraordinary disciples. Many experts of the Divine Light Court felt the aura on Xiao Hui's body and heard the exclamations from the mountains. They smiled and glanced at Du Xiaofu disdainfully. On the mountain peak, Lin Weiqi, Dong Lijiao, Sun Tian, and Shi Tu did not show any surprise at all. Instead, they smiled at Xiao Hui maliciously. They all knew the strength of the young Hull master. The martial emperor in front of them was not worth mentioning at all. The peak of the martial emperor realm, Du Xiaofu looked at Du Xiaofu and narrowed his eyes. At this moment, the profound chi storm was billowing and there was a faint lightning glow around it. Kid, you're destined to regret today. Xiao Hui looked at Du Xiaofu coldly and looked ferocious. Boom, as soon as he finished speaking, Xiao Hui's aura reached its peak, causing the entire space and mountain peak to shake violently and the ground to crack. Boom! Under the guidance of this terrifying aura, dark clouds suddenly appeared in the sky. Thunder rumbled and silver light flashed as lightning snakes shuttled back and forth in the dark clouds. Chi! In a short moment, as his aura reached its peak, lightning flashed under Xiao Hui's feet and runes surged. Then, his figure disappeared into thin air. Just as Xiao Hui's figure disappeared, Du Xiaofu's eyes darkened slightly under the mask. His eyes, which were originally filled with purple flames, slowly turned cold. He took a step to the left. Qi La. Almost at the same time, at the place where Du Xiaofu had just stepped on, a finger of lightning shot out as if it had pierced through space, capable of destroying space. However, Du Xiaofu had already disappeared into it, and Xiao Hui's figure also floated out of the lightning. Too slow. Du Xiaofu looked at Xiao Hui and said indifferently. His tone was still filled with disdain and contempt. Hearing Du Xiaofu's disdainful tone and disdainful gaze, Xiao Hui's face became more and more sinister. Killing intent surged in his eyes and his aura fluctuated. Lightning rippled in the surrounding space. Slow. You've just been tricked. Now, die. Xiao Hui sneered. His smile was filled with coldness. He formed a hand print and lightning flashed in the sky. The vast aura made the surrounding people tremble. Then, in the surrounding space, lightning appeared out of nowhere and suddenly wrapped around Du Xiaofu and froze the space around him. A domineering and destructive aura of lightning struck fear into the hearts of those who looked at it. Lightning shield. Xiao Hui shouted and laughed coldly. He formed a hand seal and drew out countless bolts of lightning from the lightning surrounding Du Xiaofu. It was as if he wanted to destroy everything. The power of the lightning spread and made the surrounding people tremble. The lightning shield was Xiao Hui's ultimate move and an extremely terrifying move in the Divine Light Court. Without a doubt, Xiao Hui wanted to kill his opponent in one move to end everything and make his name known in the Middle State. At this moment, when they felt the terrifying power of the lightning, even Lin Weiqi, Dong Lijiao, Stone, and the others who were not worried about Du Xiaofu could not help but become serious. At this moment, the surrounding lightning only made Du Xiaofu raise his head slightly. Seeing the power of the lightning coming from all directions, Du Xiaofu smiled faintly and waved his hand slightly. He had no intention of dodging at all. Crackle, terrifying lightning shot in all directions and the air trembled and distorted. The terrifying power of the lightning caused the space around the mountain to tremble violently and poured down on Du Xiaofu. You can't even withstand a single blow. At this moment, Xiao Hui sneered. He had heard some rumors about Xiao Feng, but these rumors were wrong. Xiao Feng could not withstand a single blow. Chapter 865. Inside his lightning destruction shield, Xiao Xian was still being rained down. He was definitely going to die. At this moment, all the experts of the Divine Light Court were smirking coldly. The space above the mountain peak turned into countless flashes of lightning, as if they were gathering from all directions. Finally, they piled up into a dazzling ball of lightning that made one's heart palpitate. Countless lightning snakes surrounded the ball of lightning, which then slowly disappeared. Under everyone's gaze, the last terrifying lightning actually disappeared, and a figure in purple armor appeared again. All of the lightning snakes drilled into the purple-armored youth's body and disappeared, not causing the slightest reaction. Like a stone sinking into the sea, they disappeared without a trace. At this moment, a murderous intent surged out from Du Xiaofu's eyes under the mask. Just as the lightning was shrinking, everything seemed to have happened in just a short moment. Du Xiaofu formed a hand seal and directly formed a fist. His fist was wrapped in purple flames, and his figure was unpredictable. As fast as lightning, it directly landed on Xiao Hui's chest. Boom, this was a simple punch, but it directly penetrated Xiao Hui's defense. It was like a purple lightning strike. The fist penetrated Xiao Hui's chest, and then there was a bloody hole behind his chest. The internal organs in his chest were directly smashed into a bloody mist. At this moment, Xiao Hui's eyes were frozen in fear. Then, everything stopped. The time around the mountain peak seemed to have stopped. Bang bang. Xiao Hui's body directly exploded. He could not be more dead. With one punch, Du Xiaofu smashed him into a bloody mist. A human king who had just reached the peak of the martial emperor realm was smashed into a bloody mist by the weapon emperor Qiao Feng. The mountain peak was completely silent. Countless gazes trembled, and quite a few people trembled. A chill spread out from their bones. The countless hidden auras that were spying from all directions suddenly fluctuated. This Qiao Feng is indeed extraordinary. He is a dark horse. On the surrounding mountain peaks, there were hidden auras fluctuating. Someone secretly sighed. Did you see that? Xiao Hui of the Divine Light Court was killed in one move. It's too terrifying. Qiao Feng killed Xiao Hui of the Divine Light Court in one move. After a short moment of shock, the sound of people sucking in cold air rose one after another within the mountains. At this moment, Elder Cloud Leopard, Elder Yao Xing, and the others were also dumbfounded. Even they did not expect that the extraordinary youth of the Divine Light Court, who had just reached the peak of the martial emperor realm, would be killed in one move by the young Hall Master. Lin Weiqi, Dongli Diao, Stone, Sun, Wuma Sheng, Yu, and the other disciples of the Seven-Star Hall. And the disciples of the Seven-Star Hall. Is this the younger generation of the Divine Light Court? They can't even withstand a single blow. They're as weak as ants. Du Xiaofu slowly withdrew his aura and said indifferently. Even before his breakthrough, it was not difficult for Du Xiaofu to deal with a martial emperor who had just reached the peak of the martial emperor realm, let alone now that he had broken through to the martial emperor realm and become a seven-star talisman master. The lightning power of the Divine Light Court had no effect on Du Xiaofu. Hearing those indifferent words, the aura of the mountains fluctuated. The Divine Light Court is too weak. Get lost. The disciples of the Seven-Star Hall seemed to have been injected with a shot of stimulant. The young Hall Master had killed Xiao Hui of the Divine Light Court in one move. The disciples looked at the domineering and arrogant young Hall Master, whose black hair was fluttering in the wind. He was fearless in the face of the martial emperor of the Divine Light Court and did not retreat at all. He killed Xiao Hui of the Divine Light Court and took back the dignity of the Seven-Star Hall. Such courage and wisdom had completely conquered their arrogant temperament. This weapon Emperor Qiao Feng is a difficult person to deal with. On the 6th summit, Yun Ling looked at the 10th summit, and his eyes flickered slightly. Qiao Feng. On the 9th peak, Li Shui's eyes glowed. Weapon Emperor Qiao Feng. On the 3rd peak, Dong Li Chihuang looked at the 10th peak. There was no fluctuation in his eyes. At this moment, on the 10th peak, the disciples and experts of the Divine Light Court all looked embarrassed. Some of the disciples were stunned. They had never thought that Xiao Hui, one of the best of the younger generation in the Divine Light Court, would be killed by Qiao Feng in one move. The eyes of the tall and beautiful orange-red woman flickered at this moment. Her gaze fell on the young man in purple soft armor again. "Kid, you're courting death." After a short moment of shock, many elders in the Divine Light Court's lineup suddenly shouted. Waves of aura suddenly surged. The Divine Light Court can't afford to lose. At the same time, Elder Yao Xing, Elder Cloud Leopard, Elder Cui Fu, Elder Yin Xuanlong, and other experts of the 7-star hall also rushed out. At the same time, Venerable Renlei of the Divine Light Court had a gloomy look on his face, and his eyes were filled with coldness. "Young man, it's not wrong to challenge and spar. The Divine Light Court can't afford to lose. However, you're so vicious and merciless just because you're slightly stronger. You can't be forgiven today." With a gloomy expression, Lei Zuan's eyes flashed with killing intent as he finished speaking. His aura surged and froze the space. Lei Zuan seemed to have merged with heaven and earth. He had a spirit that could swallow mountains and rivers. He gave people an endless sense of oppression. Everyone was shocked and their hearts trembled. Swish, Lei Zuan suddenly appeared in front of Du Xiaofu. He wanted to kill this young man called Qiao Feng. Otherwise, he would become a great threat to the Divine Light Court in the future. Anyway, the Divine Light Court and the 7-star hall had already formed a grudge. Qiao Feng was too powerful. He had to be eliminated. Roar, the dragon's roar shook the sky. The moment Lei Zuan appeared in front of Du Xiaofu, the dragon puppet in front of Du Xiaofu rushed out. A mighty aura surged. The dragon puppet was like a living creature. The aura of metal surged and the runes of the array swept out. What a powerful puppet. Lei Zuan's expression changed slightly. He felt that the dragon puppet was extraordinary. A hand seal fell and a terrifying thunderbolt fell from the sky. Lightning flashed and directly covered the dragon puppet. Rumble, the lightning distorted the sky and shook the surroundings. Under the surge of the terrifying aura, the mighty dragon puppet was directly shattered into dozens of pieces. Thud thud, Du Xiaofu took the opportunity to retreat. Under the mask, he was shocked. For the first time, he had a direct understanding of the strength of a venerable. The dragon puppet of the Beast Emperor realm was at the peak of the Nirvana realm. It was enough to fight against an ordinary peak of the Martial Emperor realm. However, in front of the venerable, it was destroyed in a single move. Is this the strength of a venerable? Du Xiaofu muttered in his heart. He was very shocked. The strength of a venerable was much more powerful and terrifying than he had imagined. Little Xingxing poked his head out of Du Xiaofu's arms again. His golden eyes looked at Lei Zuan and immediately said to Du Xiaofu, "Father, this is troublesome. Let's run." "I'm afraid there's nowhere to run." Du Xiaofu smiled bitterly. A revered realm expert was too strong. He was afraid that there was really nowhere to run, and he couldn't escape. "Kid, go to hell." Lei Zuan attacked again. His figure directly passed through the space. A palm print attracted lightning and covered the sky. It directly enveloped Du Xiaofu and pressed down. The terrifying palm print fell and distorted the space of the mountain peak. The vast and terrifying aura pressed down and suppressed everything. Du Xiaofu felt great danger. It was difficult to resist. The strength of a venerable was too powerful. It was far beyond the Martial Emperor realm. It was a world of difference. It's bad enough that the Divine Light Court can't afford to lose. How shameless of them to bully the young. At this moment, a rather old figure resounded through the sky. An illusory sword radiance flew through the space from mid-air and directly landed on Leisuan's palm print. The illusory sword radiance pierced through the palm print. Sword chi raged and directly cut the palm print, turning it into broken runes. It also forced Leisuan to retreat. A white figure appeared on the 10th peak. He was wearing a white robe and his white hair fluttered in the wind. The person who came was thin and slender. He looked to be in his 70s. There was an ancient sword on his back. His white beard fluttered in the wind. He looked like an immortal. With the appearance of the old man, the surrounding space was distorted. It was as if the old man's every move could control the world, causing the space to ripple. There was a terrifying aura faintly spreading from the old man's body, causing the surrounding bodies to tremble. Leisuan's figure retreated. He looked at the white-robed old man in front of him. Immediately, his face turned ugly and his eyes began to show fear. Master! Du Xiaofu, who had stabilized his body, muttered in his heart. At this moment, his eyes suddenly trembled. The white-robed old man was none other than his master, Gu Qingyang of the ancient Sky Sect. At this moment, seeing his master in front of him, Du Xiaofu almost went forward. Elder Gu, what is the meaning of your ancient Sky Sect? Leisuan looked at Gu Qingyang with an ugly expression. The corners of his eyes twitched. The ancient Sky Sect doesn't mean anything. It's just that I can't stand the shamelessness of the Divine Light Court, said Elder Gu Qingyang. However, as soon as he opened his mouth, his sage-like immortal aura instantly disappeared. His two front teeth protruded out of his mouth, and as he spoke, he would occasionally spit out saliva, making others unable to hold back their laughter. There was no update at noon today because the plot happened to be connected to 3 chapters. Therefore, the 3 chapters were released together at this time. Xiao Yu definitely didn't slack off. The update will be completed today. Chapter 866. However, the powerful and terrifying aura on Elder Qin Yang's body was enough to shock everyone and make them tremble. With Elder Gu Qingyang's intervention, Elder Cloud Leopard and Elder Yao Xing, who were already fighting with the experts of the Divine Light Court, immediately retreated behind Du Xiaofu. They were all puzzled by Elder Gu Qingyang's intervention. Is the 7-star hull related to the ancient Sky Sect? Elder Gu Qingyang was not polite, but Leisuan could only swallow his anger. He knew that he and the Divine Light Court had to avoid both Gu Qingyang and the ancient Sky Sect behind him. I have nothing to do with the 7 stars hull. It's just that my disciple was shamelessly killed by the Divine Light Court back then. You're bullying the young. Now that I see the Divine Light Court being so despicable, I can't stand it and want to interfere. Elder Gu Qingyang was not polite at all. His saliva splattered everywhere. He was not happy. Ancient Sky Sect, don't go too far. Leisuan's expression was very ugly, but he did not dare to make a move. His gaze was gloomy and twitching. I'm going too far. Or is it that the Divine Light Court is shameless? What, does the Divine Light Court want to besiege me? Do you want to fight one-on-one or as a group? I'll accompany you. Elder Gu Qingyang said with a grin. His saliva flew out from his front teeth. He did not care about Leisuan at all. Leisuan was speechless. He was angry, but he did not dare to make a move. Gu Qingyang, this is a matter between the Divine Light Court and the 7-star hull. I'm afraid it's not very appropriate for you to join in. Another old voice was heard. When the voice faded, 2 figures descended from the sky. It was an old man about the same age as Elder Gu Qingyang. His hair was combed into a bun and he wore plain clothes. His aura was not much weaker than Elder Gu Qingyang's. The other person was a young man. He wore a red robe and had golden hair. His figure was tall and straight, and his eyes were dazzling. No one dared to look at him directly. The young man's figure landed. After which, he directly walked to the side of the tall and alluring lady in an orange-red outfit and softly asked, "Xingnan, are you all right?" The tall and alluring woman in orange clothes shook her head slightly. The two of them stood together like dragons and phoenixes. They were a match made in heaven, making others envious. Under the mask, Du Xiaofu's eyes flickered as he looked at the two with a complicated expression. However, Du Xiaofu's gaze then fell on the old man. The old man's aura was not much weaker than Master Gu Qingyang's. He was far more powerful than the venerable experts of the Divine Light Court. However, as the old man from the Great Will sect and Dongli Qi Huang arrived, Elder Leizuan and the other experts of the Divine Light Court immediately smiled. The Great Will sect was one of the 9 venerables. Old Taoist of Changdao, I heard that the Divine Light Court and the Great Will sect have formed a marriage alliance. Could it be that they have merged? Why? Do you want to support the Divine Light Court? Do you want to be beaten up by me again? Elder Gu Qingyang looked at the old man from the Great Will sect and raised his eyebrows. From his words, it seemed that the old man from the Great Will sect had been beaten up by him before. Gu Qingyang, what do you mean? I only took advantage of you a little. The old man from the Great Will sect, who was called the Old Taoist of Changdao, looked at Elder Gu Qingyang. His eyes twitched faintly, and his expression did not look good. It seemed that Gu Qingyang was telling the truth. What do you mean by, only took advantage of you a little? I chased you for 3 days and 3 nights, and you hid in a cave for a month. Only you have the nerve to come out and meet people. If you have the ability, let's fight again. I'll beat you until you have nowhere to go. Elder Gu Qingyang laughed loudly. His voice was deliberately mixed with qi, so that it reverberated through the mountains. Gu Qingyang, don't be arrogant. I think you don't need to get involved in the matter between the Divine Light Court and the 7-Star Hall. I'll fight with you today. Do you think you can still take advantage of me? The old Taoist of Changdao looked gloomy and embarrassed. His eyes were cold as he stared at Elder Gu Qingyang. Let's fight. You're just a loser. You can't turn the tide. Elder Gu Qingyang said in a deep voice. His expression suddenly changed, and he unsheathed the ancient sword on his back. As the sword chimed, he rushed out, and the sword radiance in his hands suddenly erupted. Swoosh, swoosh. The sword radiance was like wind and thunder, and it directly distorted the space. With traces of dark sword radiance, it swept through the space and swept toward the old Taoist of Changdao. The old Taoist of Changdao sneered. A horsetail whisk appeared in his hand, and it turned into thousands of rays of light. It went toward Elder Gu Qingyang. The fight between the two experts directly sealed the sky, and the energy did not leak out at all. But the terrible energy surged in the confined space, and it wanted to tear the space apart. The energy was like raging waves beating on the shore, and the sky was falling and the earth was cracking. The visual impact was far more shocking than that of a martial emperor. But at this moment, Du Xiaofu looked a little helpless. His master Gu Qingyang was fighting with the expert of the Great Luan sect, and the venerable of the Divine Light Court was staring at him again. Kid, no one can save you now. Ren Leizuan stared at Du Xiaofu. Since the expert of the Great Luan sect had intervened, it was obvious that he wanted to help him. Naturally, he could not miss such an opportunity. If he did not get rid of Qiao Feng today, he would be more difficult to deal with in the future. With Qiao Feng's ruthless character, he would not let go of the disciples of the Divine Light Court. He had to get rid of him now. The terrible aura fluctuated again, and Ren Leizuan was about to attack Du Xiaofu again. Third young master, this is a critical time. You go first, and we will stop this person. Elder Cloud Leopard and Elder Yao Xing leaped in front of Du Xiaofu, wanting to protect Du Xiaofu. The target of the Divine Light Court was the young lord, and they could not let anything happen to the young lord. Du Xiaofu looked serious. Although he did not have the strength to fight against the venerable of the Divine Light Court, it did not mean that he could not fight back. After all, he still had the heavenly palace of purple gold, as well as a trump card that he had never used before. He felt that although the venerable of the Divine Light Court was strong, his aura was far inferior to his master Gu Qingyang. If he used all his trump cards, he might be able to fight back. Boom! Ren Leizuan's aura surged, and a terrible aura swept out, causing the sky to ripple. Murderous intent flashed in his eyes, and he was about to attack. But at this moment, just as he was about to attack, there was suddenly a loud laugh in front of him. "Old lunatic, you can't catch up with me. With your speed, you will never be able to catch up with me." The voice reverberated in the air. It was not loud, but it was loud enough for the entire Divine Thunder Mountain to hear it clearly. Upon hearing this voice, Du Xiaofu's body trembled all of a sudden. He immediately lifted his head and stared intently at the sky. Then, in Du Xiaofu's eyes, there was a figure in the distance that flashed across the sky like lightning. Swish! As if he had sensed the movement here, the figure withdrew and suddenly stopped in the air. It was a sloppy old man in ragged clothes, with a few weeds in his white hair. He looked very sloppy. But the sloppy old man's eyes were shining. He looked at the fight between Elder Gu Qingyang and the old Taoist of Changdao, and said, "There are still people fighting for fun, but they are not strong enough. It's not good to watch." "Well, there are quite a lot of people. Is there something fun?" Then the sloppy old man seemed to have just realized that there were crowds of people everywhere in the vast mountain range, like ants. His old face looked very surprised. Elder Leizuan, who was about to attack Du Xiaofu, looked at the sloppy old man who suddenly appeared in the air, and he also stopped and looked at him. At this moment, when Du Xiaofeng looked at the sloppy old man in the air, his eyes looked like they were struck by lightning, and his whole heart trembled. Looking at the sky, Du Xiaofu narrowed his eyes and looked at the sloppy old man carefully. When he found that he was right, he shouted with a little shock, "Old Bai, why are you here?" "Well, who is calling me? Who is it?" The sloppy old man looked down in surprise, searching for someone. "Old Bai, it's me." Du Xiaofu looked up, and the shock in his heart could not be calmed down for a long time. Who else could that sloppy old man be if not Fui Bai, who was guarding and sweeping the floor of the Du family's martial repository? But Du Xiaofu never expected that Fui Bai, who was at the Du family, was floating in the air at this moment, and his cultivation was definitely not low. Over the past few years, he had been worried from time to time that this frail old man might run into a ferocious beast while digging for a bird's nest. Even if he fell from a tree, he would be half dead. At this moment, Du Xiaofu realized that he was worried for nothing. Fui Bai, that old man, was a martial artist, but he had always hidden it in the Du family. That old man had deceived the Du family for generations. Fui Bai's eyes finally fell on Du Xiaofu. He looked at Du Xiaofu's appearance and was very surprised and puzzled. It seemed that they did not know each other, but he could feel a sense of familiarity. "Fui Bai, I'm your big brother. Come down." Du Xiaofu looked up and stared straight at Fui Bai, who was in the air. He did not give that old man any face. Towards this old man who had deceived the Du family for generations, Du Xiaofu really could not give him any face. Most importantly, this old man had deceived him since he was young. These few days, I've received many messages forwarded by readers to the public WeChat account. The messages are mainly focused on two aspects. First, why did pig trotters get into trouble with the first princess? Second, why are these chapters so lame? Even though they know they can't defeat the supremacy, they still want to kill Xiao Hui. Of course, there are also many supportive opinions. At first, Xiao Yu did not want to bother about it. He always thought that the differences in opinions between readers were a good thing, so he did not say much or reply to prevent it from affecting the reading. However, due to some special circumstances today, many haters appeared. This book has never replied to any haters before, so Xiao Yu will reply gently. First, pig trotters and the first princess have never been in love. It was just a hazy feeling at the beginning of love. Who hasn't experienced it before? How can there be such a thing? I'm also speechless. As for the first princess's future path, it's not convenient for Xiao Yu to say. Second, kill Xiao Hui. If he doesn't kill Xiao Hui, people will say that Xiao Fu is not domineering enough and that he is a coward. Furthermore, Pig Trotters does not have any trump cards and has never been reckless before. Even if he can't defeat the supremacy, it doesn't mean that he can't escape. There is also the problem of the lame chapters. Xiao Yu's writing is not writing, and the plot is not writing. Why do I need lame chapters? I know that lame chapters are not good for me, so why do I still write lame chapters? Am I stupid or are you stupid? There is a reason for every chapter. I still remember that 2.5 years ago, when I wrote the alternate world's martial arts world, countless people said that it was lame. Now, most of the chapters are written well and meticulously. Alright, Xiao Yu will continue to write. I wish all my brothers and sisters a happy Valentine's Day. Of course, those who are single should also be happy. If you have time today, book all the hotel rooms as early as possible. If you sell them at night, you will definitely be able to make huge profits. No need to thank me, I am Lei Feng. Chapter 867. Du Xiaofu spat out a mouthful of saliva and raised his eyebrows. Looking at Fu Yibai who was about to escape in the air, he said loudly, "What was the oath?" "Whoever loses will call the winner Big Brother, and will listen to Big Brother unconditionally. Whoever violates this oath will have to pee frequently and not be able to pee for the rest of their lives, and will have hemorrhoids growing on their buttocks." Fu Yibai, who was about to escape in the air, could not help but touch his shriveled buttocks. He then squeezed out a brilliant smile and chuckled at Du Xiaofu below. His voice was much gentler as he said, "Big Brother, how could I forget? Am I not here now?" Fu Yibai's figure landed in front of Du Xiaofu. With a smile on his old face, he said, "Big Brother, why have you come here? Is everything going well at home?" "Everything is fine at home, but you have hidden it well." Du Xiaofu rolled his eyes at Fu Yibai. If they were not in the Divine Thunder Mountain range, he would have wanted to settle the score with this old fellow who had deceived several generations of the Du family. "Big Brother." Elder Cloud Leopard, Elder Yao Xing, Elder Chui Fu, Lin Weiqi, Dongli Jiao, and many others were astonished when they saw Fu Yibai addressing the young hall master as his brother despite his age. "Humph, death is at hand. You should meet in hell." Elder Renlei did not put the sloppy old man in his eyes. He could not sense any dangerous aura from the sloppy old man. His killing intent surged as he was about to attack Du Xiaofu again. "Old Bai, if I am still alive, I will talk to you later." Du Xiaofu said to Fu Yibai as he stepped in front of Fu Yibai. It seemed that the Venerable of the Divine Light Court had already made up his mind to not let him off, lest he implicate Fu Yibai. However, Fu Yibai directly stepped out from behind Du Xiaofu and looked at Du Xiaofu, saying, "Big Brother, how about I discuss something with you? Stop nagging. Then all of you can go and die." Lei Zuan sneered. He did not want to delay any longer in case something unexpected happened. With a wave of his hand, a terrifying aura swept out in a palm print thundered towards Du Xiaofu. At this moment, Du Xiaofu's face turned extremely grave. "Get out of the way, don't disturb us brothers." A rather angry voice rang out, resounding in the air like a clap of thunder. The voice contained an indescribable pressure, it caused the profound chi in the surrounding peoples to choke. Many surrounding gazes were stunned at the same time. They were shocked to see that the sloppy old man flipped his hand and swung it at Renlei Zunjia from a great distance. Slap! Then, to everyone's astonishment, a crisp slap suddenly sounded from Lei Zuan's face, and a blood-red five-fingered palm print appeared on his face. Pfft! With this slap, Lei Zuan spat out a mouthful of blood, and his body flew away as though he had suffered a heavy blow. Then, under the gaze and aura of many experts, Lei Zuan's body smashed onto the mountain peak like a bird with broken wings. He landed heavily on the ground, directly destroying a large piece of rock on the mountain and creating a stone pit. At this moment, the entire space froze, and many obscure auras in the surroundings trembled. Elder Gu Qingyang and the old Taoist of Changdao, who were fighting in the air, stopped in shock. Ku, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air and swallowed their saliva. Everyone was flabbergasted as they looked at Lei Zuan, who was slapped into the stone pit. He was a dignified honorable realm expert, one of the most powerful existences in the entire central continent, but he couldn't even withstand a slap from the sloppy old man. At this moment, Du Xiaofu was more astonished than anyone else, and the shock in his heart was far above everyone else. Fu Yibai was not only a cultivator, he was also an expert who could send an honorable realm expert flying with a slap. This scene appeared in front of Du Xiaofu's eyes. If he did not see it with his own eyes, Du Xiaofu would not believe it even if he was beaten to death. The entire mountain peak was silent, and under the shock of Fu Yibai's slap, it was terrifyingly quiet. Elder Yao Xing, Elder Cloud Leopard, Elder Cui Fu, and the others were also looking at Du Xiaofu and Fu Yibai in shock. They were fiercely guessing the relationship between the two. Who is the young hall master? He actually knows such a terrifying expert, and their relationship seems to be extremely strange. Elder Yun Zichin was shocked, and her beautiful eyes were filled with astonishment. Listen up. When I'm talking to my big brother, no one is to interrupt. Otherwise, don't blame me for losing my temper. Fu Yibai glanced at the surroundings. His indifferent words carried an aura that made everyone fearful, and no one dared to speak. May I know who you are? May my great Luan sect ask for your name? Dongli Qi Huang walked out. Seeing that the experts of the Divine Light Court no longer dared to speak, and did not even dare to breathe loudly, he looked at Fu Yibai and asked. Great Luan sect. Fu Yibai looked at Dongli Qi Huang, and could not help but give him another glance. Then, he waved his hand indifferently at Dongli Qi Huang, saying, So you've used a secret reincarnation technique. Your Great Luan sect is only a servant of that clan. Even the master of your Great Luan sect's ancestor has to be polite to me. So, if you don't want to be beaten by me, then step aside and don't talk nonsense. Hearing this, Dongli Qi Huang's gaze fiercely trembled, but he really did not dare to say anything more. Only then did Fu Yibai turn around in satisfaction. He retracted his terrifying aura and looked back at Du Xiaofu. His wrinkled face did his best to squeeze out a smile, appearing extremely cunning. He lowered his voice and said, Big brother, let's continue talking. Can we keep the bet? I recently took a lot of things from an old lunatic. As long as you agree to keep the bet, I'll give you a few treasures. How about it? Du Xiaofu looked at Fu Yibai in shock. He recovered from his shock and licked his lips. He raised his eyebrows and said, No, a bet is a loss. How can it not count? Du Xiaofu really wanted Fu Yibai's treasures. However, when he thought about it carefully, there didn't seem to be any treasures that could make a powerhouse who could send a martial saint flying with a single slap call him big brother. You. Fu Yibai rolled his eyes at Du Xiaofu helplessly. Old Bai, don't worry. I once promised you that I won't not give you face in front of others. Du Xiaofu patted Fu Yibai's shoulder with regret in his heart. If he knew that Fu Yibai was so powerful, he would have taken some treasures from Fu Yibai back at the Stone City's Du clan. Little bastard. Looking at Du Xiaofu, Fu Yibai gritted his teeth in hatred, but he still forced a smile on his face. Fu Yibai, stop right there. Don't let me catch you. I will absolutely not let you go. Return my treasures to me. A loud shout came from the distant sky. The thunderous voice reverberated in the sky and resounded through the clouds. Hearing this voice, Fu Weibai's expression greatly changed. He said to Du Xiaofu, "Big brother, I have to go. That old lunatic has caught up. Once he goes crazy, it will be a terrible matter. I still have matters to attend to, so I can't be bothered by him. I'll take my leave first." Whoosh, as soon as he finished speaking, Fu Weibai's figure had already turned into a long rainbow that pierced through the sky. With a flash, his figure had already disappeared in mid-air. Whoosh, not long after Fu Weibai's disappearance, a vigorous figure appeared in the air with a flickering light on his body. It was an old man with disheveled hair. He wasn't any better than Fu Weibai, but his gaze was as deep as the sea. The old man's figure paused in the air as he looked at the vast black fog plains in front of him. There seemed to be an aura rippling within it as he softly muttered, "Has that mysterious place opened again? Fu Weibai, stop right there. I won't let you go even if I have to chase you to the end of the world." In the next instant, the disheveled old man roared again. His voice was like a thunderclap that caused everyone's eardrums to vibrate and their souls to tremble. After that, he instantly chased after Fu Weibai. The two terrifying experts came and went quickly. It was like an interlude. Only Renlei the Venerable was slapped into the stone pit with a single slap. On the mountain peak, the old Taoist of Changdao looked at Du Xiaofu with doubt and fear in his eyes. He had to reevaluate Xiao Feng's identity to be able to attract such experts. Cough. Ren Leizuan finally crawled up from the stone pit in a sorry state. His face was swollen, and blood dripped from the corner of his mouth. His eyes were filled with horror. Du Xiaofu looked at the sky where Fu Weibai disappeared from under the mask. His heart was in turmoil. It seemed that not only did Fu Weibai deceive the Du family for several generations, but his strength was also extremely terrifying. Taking a deep breath, Du Xiaofu calmed down the turmoil in his heart. Seeing that everyone was stunned by Fu Weibai's appearance, Du Xiaofu went up to his master, Gu Qingyang, and said, "Thank you for helping me out, Senior Gu." "Ha, I didn't help you out. I just don't like the Divine Light Court." Chapter 868. Yes, I am. Du Xiaofu nodded and looked at his master, Gu Qingyang. However, he did not dare to look directly at him, as he was afraid that his master would recognize him. "You are very similar to my disciple. Back then, you were also attacked by the shameless people of the Divine Light Court," Gu Qingyang said. "I believe that your disciple must be extraordinary," Du Xiaofu replied. "Of course, but it's a pity that." Elder Gu Qingyang's clear eyes looked a little sad on his ruddy face. Then, he looked at Du Xiaofu under the mask and said, "Work hard in the Genius Tournament. I hope that you can enter the top 10. For what you said, I will definitely enter the top 10. Looking at the sadness in his master's eyes, Du Xiaofu nodded. His heart was filled with complex emotions, and his eyes were moist. He had been unfilial, hiding his identity, but he had caused his master and his family to be heartbroken over him. "All right, then this old man will wait for you to enter the top 10. Elder Gu Qingyang smiled and glanced at the old Taoist of Changdao from the Great Will sect. The qi under his feet surged and he rose into the air. Phew, Du Xiaofu looked at his master, Gu Qingyang, as he leaped onto the sixth peak in the distance. He took a deep breath and the tears in his eyes disappeared. Du Xiaofu then turned around to look at the experts of the Divine Light Court, who had yet to recover from their shock, and said in a harsh and cold voice, "Now that the Divine Light Court has been defeated, you may leave." The old Taoist of Changdao and Dongli Chihuang looked at each other secretly and did not say anything. However, Dongli Chihuang looked at the first princess, Qing Shengnan, and said softly, "Shengnan, let's go to the third peak." The disciples of the Divine Light Court were secretly afraid. Then, they all looked at Renleizuan, who had climbed out of the stone pit. "Elder Renlei, let's go to the third summit." Cheng Xingnan stepped forward and glanced at Du Xiaofu before speaking softly to Leizuan. The corners of Leizuan's mouth were dripping with blood, and his old face was red and swollen. He stared at Du Xiaofu with resentment and fear in his eyes and said, "The Divine Light Court will definitely not let this matter rest with the 7-star Hall. Let's go." With that, Ren Leizuan waved at the disciples of the Divine Light Court and left in a sorry state. With the terrifying shock left behind by the sloppy old man and the assistance of the ancient heaven sect, Ren Leizuan was severely injured. He had no choice but to leave. After the disciples of the Divine Light Court left, Dongli Chihuang of the Great Will sect and the old Taoist of Changdao also leaped into the air and flew toward the third peak, where the Great Will sect was located. Scram! The younger generation of the Divine Light Court is so weak. As the people of the Divine Light Court left in a sorry state, the disciples of the 7-star Hall cheered. They looked at Du Xiaofu with respect and admiration in their eyes. Sun Tian, Dongli Jiao, Yu Bai, and the others looked at the young man in front of them with respect. They knew very well that they would never have been able to do what they did today. The young man in front of them was strong enough to become their leader and make them submit to him. Lin Weiqi looked at the young man in purple armor in front of her. Her eyes rippled and her heart was touched. There were ripples that had never rippled before in her heart. Elder Cloud Leopard, Elder Yao Xing, Elder Yun Ziqin, and the others were also very excited. The Divine Light Court has kicked a steel plate this time. They have lost all their face. They even lost a human king and severely injured a venerable. After all, the 7-star Hall is the master of the spiritual zone, second only to the 9 great forces. The Divine Light Court is very strong and has been rising recently, but it seems to be slightly inferior to the 7-star Hall. The main reason is that the Weapon Emperor, Qiao Feng, is too strong. His methods are swift and fierce, and he did not show any mercy. It is said that the Weapon Emperor, Qiao Feng, is the disciple of the Weapon Venerable. The Weapon Venerable was so powerful back then. The disciple he chose must be extraordinary. Whispers could be heard in the mountains. "Sister Xiaoman, did you see that? The old man in the sky just now looks very familiar. He seems to be Elder Fu from the Martial Repository." Among the many young men and women at the back of the mountains, a young man with an imposing aura looked at the sky in front of him. The figure that had just appeared was too familiar. Back then, no one in the Du family had not suffered under Fu Yi. Sweeping the floor and cleaning up were common occurrences. It really does look like Elder Fu. Du Yunlong's eyes were also filled with doubt. The figure in the sky just now really did look like Elder Fu from the Martial Repository. It does look similar. However, it shouldn't be Elder Fu. Du Xiaoman smiled bitterly. Although the figure was Elder Fu, she was in denial. How could Fu Yibai from the Martial Repository be here? Moreover, he was such an expert. It is said that the Weapon Emperor of the 7-star Hall, Qiao Feng, is very strong, Du Chong said. At this moment, Du Chong was no longer the same Du Chong who had left the Stone City's Du family. Over the years of cultivation, the increase of the Du family's resources, the guidance of experts, and the awakening of the thunder martial vein in his body, Du Chong's current cultivation was actually behind Du Yunlong and Du Xiaoman. He had already stepped into the martial king realm. However, for the disciples of the Du family, the elders of the family had instructed them not to use the awakened thunder martial vein in the sealed ancient land unless it was an emergency. The thunder martial vein was the trump card of the Du family. It was the biggest reason for the rise of the Du family. It was not the time to expose it yet. If third brother was here, why would he be below Weapon Emperor Qiao Feng? Du Hao said. This is the first time for the Du family to enter the sealed ancient land. There are many things that we are not familiar with. When the time comes, we must be together and not be careless. Du Xiaoman turned around and said to the disciples of the Du family. Why is the deputy hall master not here yet? I'm afraid the space in the sealed ancient land is about to open. The silver-winged demonic condor looked at the sky. The deputy hall master had not arrived yet, which made him a little worried that he would miss him. Little Qin will definitely arrive. Perhaps she was delayed on the way, Du Xiaoman said. Time passed slowly and the mountains were bustling with noise. Everyone was waiting for the sealed ancient land to open. Some people had already arrived long ago and had been waiting for no less than a few days. As the people of the Divine Light Court were chased away, the disciples of the Seven-Star Hall waited at the mountain peak. Du Xiaofu looked at the black fog plains in front of him. The vast plains were shrouded in black fog and exuded an evil aura. Young Hall Master, the Divine Light Court and the Great Luan sect have a close relationship. The Great Luan sect has interfered just now. I'm afraid that they will inevitably target the Seven-Star Hall. Young Hall Master, please be careful. Elder Yun Ziqin came to Du Xiaofu's side. After being happy for a while, she could not help but be a little worried. The Great Luan sect was much more powerful than the Divine Light Court. Elder Yun, don't worry. I will be careful. Du Xiaofu smiled and nodded. As long as he entered the sealed ancient land, he did not fear anyone among the younger generation. From dawn to dusk, time passed by like quicksand at one's fingertips. Other than the interlude between the Divine Light Court and the Seven Stars Palace, there were no other major disturbances. Some small skirmishes did not attract much attention. At dusk, the setting sun was as red as blood, pouring down on the mountain range and shrouding the vast plains, illuminating the black fog with a strange glow. Whoosh! Just as the first ray of the setting sun fell on the plains, a wave of aura began to spread out from the black fog that covered the sky. At the same time, the Divine Thunder Mountain range under the dusk suddenly erupted with waves of astonishing fluctuations. Many figures leaped into the air and floated in the air, blotting out the sky and covering the earth. Rumble. In a short time, the plains resounded and the surrounding mountains rumbled. The black fog surged and strange runes flickered. Then, under the gaze of many people, a huge outline began to appear on the black fog plains. Then, a distorted space appeared in front of countless eyes. It was an outline of space. Black fog surged and there were faint cries of ghosts and gods. Looking from afar, it was dark and eerie. The sealed ancient land is about to open. There are countless evil spirits and many benefits in there. In the air above the mountain peak, figures that blotted out the sky and covered the earth floated in the air. Numerous blazing gazes were fixated on the distorted space. Once the seal around the space disappeared, the countless people would immediately rush in. Du Xiaofu looked at the sky and swept across the crowd. There were many martial king realm cultivators. In addition to the 9 giants on the surrounding mountains, there were also many young martial royal realm auras. I'm afraid there will be many dark horses. Du Xiaofu muttered to himself. Getting rid of those evil beings was one thing, but when the time comes for the final heaven's favorite competition, there would be a fierce battle. It was inevitable that a dark horse would appear. It was definitely not an easy task to enter the top 10. Ka. Just as Du Xiaofu was pondering in his heart, a series of cracking sounds suddenly rang out in front of him. Space fluctuated, and purplish golden lightning flashed within the black foggy space. The seal was disappearing, and the purplish golden lightning dissipated. The sealed ancient land was finally about to be opened again. It's midnight. Originally, I told a few of my friends that I would release more chapters today. However, if I don't release at 11 p.m., I will postpone it to tomorrow. My apologies. It's a special situation. Please forgive me. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.